What's up, guys? Thank you for making this one of my most viewed live streams ever. I really appreciate that you're all here. You know, the more you guys comment and watch, the more the algorithm puts this out to more people. So I really appreciate you guys getting so triggered and showing up because we're attacking the dear leader here. But welcome. AP, DW, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been wanting to do this for a while now. David and I talked about doing this like back in July when Sneeko was at this rally, and then I forgot. And then I saw Fuentes on Twitter talking about how when he turns 30, he wants a 16-year-old child bride. And as you know, I kind of have something against that. So I commented, and all of his trolls showed up to attack me. And I'm like, you know what? I think we should do that live stream now.
In Nick's defense, a 16-year-old would be pretty much a grandmother for, in Daniel Hikikuchu's camp, right? Because, as long, the 16-year-old has like an 8-year-old daughter and she has a 1-year-old. As long as that 1-year-old has reached precocious puberty and parental consent and so on, you could, have entire generations all before the age of 16.
Yeah, as long as the parents say yes, so no problem.
Yep. Groypers of the world, unite! Groypers. Where did they get that name anyways? Did that exist before? Or they like specially invented it?
It's something to do with the white nationalist movement. I mean, this is just kind of what they do. It's their term. I don't remember exactly where it comes from, but to me, it's not important. They're white nationalists. They're fascists. That's truly what they are.
They're honored to be here because we are going to talk about the Führer. We're going to talk about him, and they are going to defend him.
When the Führer gets attacked, they get a little triggered, and then they end up. They don't realize the damage they do. I was talking to AP just before he came in, David, is like, those people, those environmentalists that go sit in roads and block traffic, thinking they're going to get their message out, and they end up just pissing everyone off.
Yep.
This is what the Groypers ultimately do.
That's exactly what
they troll endlessly thinking they're going to get their message out, and they just make more people hate them. So with them showing up doing this, it's going to backfire. More people will see how crazy they are, and then this tiny this far right tiny movement is just going to get hated more because they're going to have more of a spotlight on them.
There's one thing that I'm wondering. Genuinely, I should have asked this before we went live, maybe to you, Mike. But I know that these Groypers and these neo-Nazi people, they're not very, very smart. They don't have much in their heads. But what is that Apple meme about?
It is something I'm not sure entirely guessed it. I think it's rather new. I know that Fuentes was on Twitter as like, "Hey Apple guy" for a little while, and then he got banned. So it's probably got some sort of like lingo they have going on in there. Thank you for the super chat, Surfing Cowboy. Reminder: Nick knowingly harbored Ali Akbar, who is attracted to and flirts with underage boys in his organization of mostly underage boys. Wow. So yeah, this guy is apparently a Catholic, and this is the kind of crap he does.
He was also very subservient to Milo. Nick Fuentes was. He was taking orders basically from Milo. Milo was telling him in these leaked texts like, "You don't seem very dominant. The attendance at the rally was very low. This does not please me." What a pathetic loser! Like we just called him jokingly the Führer, but I mean. Nick Fuentes is like something like a high school Hitler or something like that. I don't know.
He's a wannabe Hitler.
Nick is just one of the many tradcath orthbros that are false converts using Christianity to further their wicked desires. Thank you for making this. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you for the super chat. And that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to be putting up some of the stuff he says on the screen in his recent speech that directly contradicts what we read in the New Testament, showing this guy is a grifter. He doesn't understand what the Bible preaches. He goes directly against its teachings in many ways. He's basically fooled a lot of these poor young men who have been disenfranchised by modern society. And I get it. If you go on Google News and you type in white cis men, you get all sorts of negative articles. So what Nick has done is he's gone to these people and he has lied to them and manipulated them and turned them into the very thing the far cringy left wants them to be. Racist anti-Semites. They have become the parody the left makes them out to be, and they've played right into their hand by going to Fuentes. And so this guy needs to be exposed. He has lied to a lot of people. He's led people away from the actual teachings of Christ, pretending to teach Christianity. I have some studies we can go over showing how his ideas will lead away from the very teachings of Christianity. The more he promotes Christianity, the more Christianity will destroy his very movement. And studies show that. But you guys are ready. We can start on the video unless you want to say anything else.
Just one thing quickly. Did you turn on slow mode for the chat?
I don't know how to slow mode.
If you go into the live stream settings, you can
go to your live stream. Yeah, go to like your details on your thing, and then click read the options that are open. There's a on the sidebar.
In fact, maybe you should use this opportunity to turn on subscriber only mode, so that all those subscribers have to subscribe to your channel to comment.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, we'll get that going. Let's get the video going if you guys want to play, and I'll figure that out.
No, I wanted to say something first.
Mm-hmm.
While you're finding that out, do you see the things over on the side? What are your options once you go into your details of your live stream? Because I forget which one it is.
Wait, you talking about in StreamYard or in the actual YouTube link?
In the actual YouTube link. I mean, okay. Go to your actual YouTube.
Community moderation, participants, toggle moderation activity, pop out chat, toggle timestamp, send feedback. So yeah, I got to figure it out.
What are you looking at? There's like a button that you go to.
Man, I don't know. I'm trying to figure this shit out. Let's just start the video and then we'll figure it out because I don't know exactly where it is.
Yeah, you go into the details just like anything else, and then there's an option over on the side that you click. Oh, I just wanted to say, as far as Nick Fuentes, because you were talking about him, trying to appeal to Christians and spread his nonsense. This is something that everyone's going to have to be dealing with in the very near future. Everyone's already dealing with it, but you guys, you have not even seen the beginning of this. You can see it with like Andrew Tate, right? Like, hey, I'll say all this stuff over here, but as long as I'm throwing you Muslims a bone here and there, you guys are going to rally around me, even though I'm saying all this stuff that massively contradicts Islam. And you're going to be seeing that over and over again, where someone who has some messed up ideas in one area or something massively immoral or evil or something like that will pick a big group that he can rally around him and say, you see, I'm the champion of your group, and then try to lead them where he wants them to go. And so everyone's going to have to be dealing with that. We see it with this guy. We're going to be seeing that with a lot of people in politics, everywhere else. Hey, your group is worried about this. Just rally around me and do what I say, and I'll help you get what you want. When in reality, I'm using you to get what I want. But the entire world is ripe for massive manipulation right now, and everyone's going to have to fall into one group or another.
I want to say one very quick thing before we start, which is only one more thing here. A lot of people in the chat say, bring Nick Fuentes on, bring Nick on, argue with him. I want to say, so I don't think this was planned, and I think that's pretty much out of question. But I would like to say, I have my channel. If Nick Fuentes wants to talk, I will be happy to host him. He can be my guest, and I will be happy to have a discussion with him. So Nick Fuentes, get in touch with me.
I would say I wouldn't recommend doing that even on your YouTube channel, not to avoid having the discussion, but because even in this lecture here, I watched about half of it. Even here, he's talking about when he goes on someone's channel with YouTube, those people get contacted by YouTube and threaten to terminate their stuff. So yeah,
I'm aware, but
you might want to do it on like Rumble or Twitter or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. But I turn on slow chat and I turn on subscriber only. So if you Fuentes friends want to you guys got to subscribe if you want to comment now. So
that's messed up. That's brutal right there.
Now you will have a bunch of Nazi subscribers.
Yeah, and you have to give a super chat if you want any attention.
My job is to take the gospel to everyone, including the least of those and the worst of those. So I am perfectly fine preaching the gospel to Nazis and telling them to repent and abandon this false teacher Fuentes. So, I don't mind them coming here. They can come and hear the gospel. Watch my newest video I just posted.
I'm trying to think of who this guy reminds me of. He's kind of like a cross between a young Norm Macdonald and a young Norm Macdonald mixed with a little Pee Wee Herman and a Nazi. Oh no, a Hitler Youth. You know the Hitler Youth. So you had the full grown Nazis that are going around fighting and stuff, but then you had the Hitler Youth, which are like kids spouting Nazi propaganda and snitching on their parents if they have any issues and stuff. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of that.
With those ugly short pants. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, hopefully they start subscribing here. But let's get into this video. As I was telling you guys earlier, you two with me here, there a lot more I want to comment on is towards the end where he starts getting into it. A lot of the stuff on the front, he just goes after liberals, shows he's a misogynist, shows he's a Nazi, all that kind of stuff. But his actual, more of his really, really bad arguments are towards the end. So we'll play a little bit at the beginning. And then if you guys are okay, I want to jump to his misquoting of the Talmud.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's where I got to. I started looking up some of those passages. So anything after that, you're saying a lot of the stuff comes at the end. I haven't seen, unless I saw it in like a Twitter clip or something like that, when his fans were thought they'd like won the internet with this lecture.
Oh,
it's funny. He even says it. He keeps saying it in there. He's like, "We've got 500 people. We've already won. We've already won." I'm like, dude, do you have any idea? We've got 500 groypers, 500 groypers against the entire world. We've won.
Oh, this is gonna be amazing. All right, let's get going here. Make sure that's playing.
And around here outside of SAS, we have close to 500 young people gathered here today because word is getting out that we got to get rid of Jewish power in America.
That's how he opens his speech, is that he goes right into anti-Semitism, and this guy's supposed to be a good Christian boy who loves everyone, and he just immediately just goes to race, like oh no, like you realize you're a racist, like you're basically saying the same crap Hitler said in the 1920s.
Wait, by the way, what is that a screen behind him that's playing this stuff, or is that like is that a special effect, like a background?
He's got the worst tech team. They play these really distracting clips behind him the whole time. Like, whoever is doing his tech has no experience, or just is not that bright. I don't know.
So I want to quickly say a few things about. I don't know if you want to keep going. If you want to keep listening first.
Let's listen a little bit more, and then you can. Let's listen a little bit more.
They've done everything they can to stop it. They've censored, they've killed, canceled, blacklisted. But we are here to say that America is not a Jewish nation. America is a Christian nation.
By the way, I mean, guys, you see, like, look at the wings they're trying to put behind them. They can't quite get the wings right. But I mean, guys, think about how this is like. It can be, you could be successful to a degree, but this is like very low level manipulation. Hey, everyone, you like America? Yeah, we love America. Yeah. Hey, are you a Christian like me? Yeah. All right. Well, we have to destroy the Jews. Oh, okay, cool.
That's basically it. Yeah.
America.
It's like the lowest form of intellectual, of right-wing intellectual activism is to simply go for. There are the Jews behind everything. There is a Jew behind all of the problems in the world. I'm not successful because of the Jews. Jews are in power. That's why so much stuff is not going our way. And it's just, I mean, you can jump into that without thinking anything through at all. It is idiotic. It is so embarrassingly stupid. And it is mostly based on ignorance, based on a paranoid way of thinking. He talks a lot here about Jewish power, about how there's this Jewish stranglehold where America is caught and the rest of the world as well, and we have to get rid of it. And there are no sources attached to that. When you ask where this Jewish power is, they will give you these images that were created in the early 2000s and posted online, and they still have the same images of every cabinet member of this and that is a Jew. Every media member is a Jew. And there is no real argument there.
Yeah, AP, I just wanted to check with you. How many times over the years have you been accused of working for the Jews and being funded by the Jews to do the stuff? Because I hear that stuff all the time. When I'm not aware of one shekel.
Yeah, me either. I mean, all my donors are just come from like these $5 or $15 donors I've got. I don't have any checks coming from Israel.
Yeah,
But even what he's saying is completely contradictory to Christianity, because Paul says in Galatians, there's neither Jew nor Greek. Like, you don't judge people based on their race. You judge them based on if they're working for God, if they're sinning or not, what they're actually doing in life. You don't judge based on race. So his very message is just anti-Christian.
and the conspiracy theories are completely incoherent, right? Like, I get accused of going after Islam because the Jews have convinced I'm working for the Jews to go after Islam. But then when I complain about some Islamic teaching, I'll get these messages from these groypers, saying, David, if you have a problem with the spread of Islam, then you should be on Nick's side because he's exposing the Jews. The Jews are the ones bringing in the Muslims. And it's like, wait. So let me get straight. Let me get this straight. According to you guys' theory here, the Jews have this brilliant plan whereby they're bringing in massive numbers of people who want to brutally murder them and destroy Israel. And then they're simultaneously funding people like me to expose the thing that they're bringing. Like, seriously, guys, that's your theory? And there's always some sort of what could you say is the plan there? It's just chaos. It's just chaos.
That's what they will argue, though. They will argue that the Jews are trying to create this environment of constant conflict and war and disorder, because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do everywhere. And these are the same things that Hitler said, for example. Hitler said the very same thing, that they are these ruthless people who are at home everywhere in the world and who are basically behind all the disorder, who don't want the nations at peace. It's always the same narrative over and over again. We don't want a genocide, but we have to get rid of Jewish power when there is no real Jewish power. Same speech, same words, same sentiment, over and over again. I was just mentioning to Mike before we went live how Muslims have been saying, "You are a Jew, you work for Israel," all the time. And the only other group that does the very same thing when you criticize them are these little neo-Nazis who are actually just a bunch of dummies who post memes online and would never even do anything in real life.
He's got angel wings. Being dumb, AP. The man literally has angel wings.
Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. I will go through them at the end. They are all being saved in StreamYard, so we'll get to them at the end. If you guys are okay with it, I want to go to where he, because the first half of this is him ranting, him making fun of women's bodies at one point. One specific, I think it's like Destiny's girlfriend or something, like just showing how much of a misogynist he is.
Yeah, I saw that.
But towards the end, he gets into like why he thinks Jews are evil, and he takes a bunch of quotes from the Talmud, which he just gets wildly wrong. I went and tracked these down because I was actually like,
I did too. I did the same thing. Have you noticed some things like massively distorted there, IP?
Oh, very massively. This is what he is. He's a liar. He does this because he wants. He says this at the end. He wants a holy war with the Jews. And what is his reasoning? Well, these evil Talmud verses, these sections. Look, they want to kill us, so we got to go after them. Do you realize the level of manipulation here? He's using lies and quote mining the Talmud to get his followers to hate and become anti-Semitic, so that he can have his holy war, but it's all based on sand. It's a house bet on sand at this point. Yeah, and if his followers don't know this, it shows you how manipulated and lost they are.
And the passages he brings up aren't like it's not like he went out and studied the Talmud. He's just quoting the same lists that have been around for like 100 and some years.
Yeah.
Look what the Talmud says, and I'm sure we'll be taking a closer look at some of those passages here.
That's the funny thing. When I was completely neutral about all of this, when I was even a Muslim, I think, or when I left Islam, I saw these lists on the internet that were spread and shared around on these Nazi websites, and they always had the same lists: the true face of the truth about the Talmud. The Talmud says this about the Gentiles and that about the Gentiles, and I looked it up back then to find out if it actually does say it, and I had to learn that it's almost all of it is complete nonsense. Plus, So most of the quotes are completely taken out of context and misrepresented, but some of them actually don't even exist. And
yeah,
Nick
that's-
Yeah,
Fuentes,
some of the sources are made up.
yeah, and Nick Fuentes does the
Yep.
same thing still. After 20 years, he still comes with the same list in which citations are given that don't exist.
Yeah, and matter of fact, one of the quotations he is about to use is a made up source. At
Yeah,
least,
yeah,
at least.
shots or
Maybe
something like that,
I'm completely missing something, and I've seen
Nope.
people point out,
No, it's
hey,
made
maybe
up.
you're missing, maybe we're missing something here, but this source does not exist.
It's made up.
Yeah.
We'll come to that.
All right, well, let's keep going here.
Question Fit show this week, and Myron had never even heard of this. And I think it's true that many people haven't heard of this. They don't just believe in the written Torah. That's what they call it. There's the Torah, which is the scripture. This is the revelation by God. They believe in what's written there, but they also believe in an oral Torah that's not written down.
Nobody.
It's something that's transferred over the generations orally. That is until it was written down in the Babylonian Talmud in the beginning of the first millennium. And I want to just read you a few quotes from this Jewish Talmud. And in case you don't know, this is the holy book, their number one holy book, which they have believed in for thousands of years. This is the basis of Talmudic rabbinical Judaism.
Okay,
And
real
I
quick.
know, and I know because I looked at this list of quotes that's been circulating on the internet, and I just spout it. I just say it, even though I obviously didn't even bother to look up any of these sources, or I would have spotted the ones that are completely made up. But I don't even know
Yeah.
that. But I'm the expert telling you that we need to prepare for holy war.
There's already
And
so much to analyze here and to debunk here. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, the one thing is that the Talmud is not the basis. It's the Tanakh, the Old Testament. It's the Tanakh is the basis of their faith. And the Talmud is commentary. It's dialogue between different rabbis. They don't take everything in it as gospel because it's debate going on. So there's contradictory statements in the
And
Talmud.
you can't take everything as a command because they contradict you. The
Yes.
rabbis contradict each
That's
other
not
over
even
and over
possible.
and over again. It'll say this rabbi says this, and then this rabbi will respond and say, no, you're getting it wrong because of this. But then they will just go to the quotation by that first rabbi and then say, see, this is the command that all Jews are following in secret.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
This is how they interpret the 613 commandments that are laid out in the written Torah. This is their application by the rabbis over thousands of years. And up until just recently, they all believe this, despite there maybe being atheist Jews today. These are a handful of selected quotes. Even the best of the Gentiles should be killed.
Wrong.
This is
Nope, not accurate at all.
I
no.
looked that one up too.
Yep, go ahead. You go
Oh,
first.
you want me to break it down? Okay, so
Go for it.
yeah, I was reading that it's basically someone who is familiar with the Talmud. When they see Rabbi so-and-so said this, they're familiar with Rabbi so-and-so's positions and his commentaries and what this is all connected to. And so they understand it. This guy just goes completely massacres the context and says, you see, it makes it sound. Notice, how did that sound according to the way he just presented it? Even the best of the Gentiles should be killed. So this is talking about Gentiles in general. Even the best of us should be killed. When you go in context, this to the wider context of this rabbi's position, it starts with a commentary on the Exodus. Right?
Yes.
So you got that too, right? So there you have the independent confirmation here. So it's he's commenting on the Exodus, right? And he's talking about the Egyptians when they came out in their chariots. And so the discussion among the rabbis was, hey, wait a minute, didn't God strike their animals? Didn't God strike their animals? And yet they're charging out in chariots against the Jews. And so they reasoned, wait a minute, God must have only been punishing the really evil ones. And the others were not punished. Therefore, they're the ones who had animals. Okay, so guess what? Who are these people coming at us with their horses? Those are the good guys of the Egyptians who weren't hell-bent on rebelling against God, but they're still coming out against us because they're part of the army and they're told to come out against us. So they reasoned, wait a minute, these are guys who are not under God's punishment, and yet they're coming out against us. And so what do we do in these situations? The reasoning is, in a war, there are actually good people on the other side. There are people who aren't in rebellion against God or anything else. and they're really evil people, what do you do? And it's going to look, even the best of them, kill them. So if you're in a war, you can't make those kinds of decisions. Oh, he looks like a nice guy. Even the best of them, you fight. That's what I got, and that's the greater context of that command. Very, very different from the way he portrays it. But what were you seeing, IP?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. It's in Sofrim 15:10 is where this actually is, and does have commentary on the Exodus, and it's exactly what you said. It's about killing in war. If these people are attacking, like when the slaves, the Hebrew slaves, are running away, and these people are chasing them in chariots, yeah, you got to kill them to defend yourselves. It's not you do this all the time. This is about an act of war, and like there's other passages like Tosefta, Sanhedrin 13, the righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come. So like you have things like that in the Talmud as well, where it's actually talking highly of the Gentiles, that they will have a share in the world to come. So, I mean, like the idea that you can just sort of cherry pick these places out. But this is how bad Fuentes is his research. He didn't actually look at the Talmud like you and I did. It took us like 15 minutes probably.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how long it took me to find this. He just found this list online, went with it because he knew it would rile up his supporters to get him in his holy war. That's what he's really about here.
And look at his followers. You can tell his followers, they do not care even slightly. No. And some are even saying, oh, that's like when Muslims say it's talking about what? No, it's literally talking about war. They're talking about an army marching out against you. And the idea that not everyone in an opposing army is some horrible, evil person. Some people are just in the army. That's their job. And so they're following their orders to come and fight you. What do? That's the actual context. Nick just left all of that out. Now, suppose you were trying to come to an informed decision about what you should think about the Talmud. Do you think it might be relevant to point out this is not saying that Jews need to kill all Gentiles, even the best of them? This is saying that in a context where you're fighting, there are not the people who are coming at you are not necessarily all evil, horrible oppressors. Because notice the reasoning that the rabbi who said this was using was God did not punish them. That's why they still had their animals. So God wasn't punishing them. So they were not among the people that God himself was punishing, which means they're not in the same category with the people that God was punishing. They're in a different category. How are we going to be punishing people, fighting people that God let slide?
Yeah.
There's also one fundamental difference here for those who say this is just like when Muslims say it's out of context. There is a huge difference between the Talmud and the Quran when it comes to their nature and their purpose. David and I, or Michael, would never sit down and actually criticize the Quran by giving a little quote from the Quran completely out of context and say, look, it says here, kill all of them. Therefore, the Muslims are supposed to kill everyone who is not a Muslim. We wouldn't even do that. But the major difference here is also the Quran is a book which was supposedly by the Islamic religion revealed by Allah and revealed as a direct message and a direct instruction for all Muslims to follow. So everything that it says, everything that it directly commands therein is a command to Muslims, and Muslims are supposed to follow that book word for word. The Talmud in that way is completely different. The Talmud is known to have been written down by the scholars, and the Talmud is not the direct word of God. The Talmud is not a collective of commands. The Talmud is mostly made up of discussions of scholars contradicting with each other because they are debating something, or of interpretations of the law. So you can find tons of quotes in there that, if you take them at face value, you can't even follow them because two lines after each other completely contradict each other. That is not possible. That the Talmud is supposed to be studied in order to understand Jewish history, Jewish thinking, Jewish interpretation of the law, and so on. It is not meant to be a book that you follow word for word directly. So there's a huge difference there. You should understand that at first.
Yeah. Let me just give a quick two quick quotations here to illustrate this in a different way. This is a quote from the Talmud. The righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come. Yeah. The righteous of all nations have a share in the world to come.
How is this possible?
Another quote. I call heaven and earth as witnesses. Any individual, whether Gentile or Jew, man or woman, servant or maid, can bring the divine presence upon himself in accordance with his deeds. Now, notice that's in the Talmud. That's in the Talmud. So how does that line up with the quotations that Nick is going to be giving here? Guess what? It's a bunch of quotes from a bunch of different rabbis. That's what it is. You can unless you have some basis for thinking, oh, when a Jew goes to the Talmud, he's only going to pick these particular quotations from these like really, really hardline rabbis who were really enraged because of stuff was going on, and ignore everything else that goes against that understanding. That's how we're going to do it. And he's acting like all Jews, except for the ones that are now atheists, are on the same page there. And guys, even just saying that's how he's representing things. Doesn't that sound like really, really evil and slimy?
Yeah, very much is. And yeah, let's play the next line and we'll comment on it as well.
The Talmud. All children of the Gentiles are animals.
This is so ridiculous.
I looked that one up too.
Yeah, I didn't find anything like that. What about you, David?
Yeah, I did find the context was completely different. They're talking about laws about who a son is allowed to marry from the relatives of his father, like his father's brothers, ex-wife, and so on. Things that are forbidden. And they're talking about things like levirate marriage and so on. So they're talking about different. They're talking about different relations that you're allowed to have. And then the comment about the Gentiles. The comment about the Gentiles was they don't have this patrilineage thing where the father is in this certain sort of relation, and therefore all these different relations with relatives of the father are forbidden according to the law. They're saying they don't have that. They don't have the patrilineage, and therefore a Gentile doesn't have that kind of relationship with these other people, and therefore it's similar to like an animal. Like if a horse has an offspring, you don't say, well, this horse has to be kept separate from these other things there. So you might say, I don't like that and stuff, but the way he's presenting it is, Gentiles aren't humans; they're beasts, or the children of Gentiles are animals and things like that. Wait, which one was I responding to? Those are two separate passages.
It's Yevamot 98a.
98a.
Yeah,
and
98a.
What it says here basically word for word is, and this here is the issue. These are old memes. He's repeating them. These are not actual quotes that he takes from the Talmud. These are just something that somebody wrote, which are claimed to be said in the Talmud. What the Talmud says here is, learn from this that the merciful one dispossesses the male Gentile of his offspring, as it is written with regard to Egyptians, whose flesh is the flesh of donkeys and whose semen is the semen of horses. Ezekiel 23:20, i.e., the offspring of a male Gentile is considered no more related to him than the offspring of donkeys and horses. So, what this does not, if you read this, mean that they are animals.
It's saying if you do not have this law, if you are not part of this patrilineage law, then it's just a biological relationship, and you don't have the offspring of horses. You don't have all these rules to follow, and neither do Gentiles.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like to me. But the point is, so you could look at that and you say, I don't like that. I don't like being compared to animals or something like that. The point is, when Nick and his groypers, when they quote this, they make it sound like saying, you're just animals we can slaughter at will. That has nothing to do with the passage. That has zero to do with the passage. This is talking about who are you allowed to marry? Like if your father's brother had a wife and then they divorced, would you as a Gentile be allowed to marry her? According to the Jews, you wouldn't be allowed to marry her if you're under the law. If you're a Gentile, you don't have that. You don't have that rule. So I don't know. Again, you could say, "Hey, I don't like the comparison," saying that it's more like the animals or something like that. But is this? Did he accurately represent what this passage is about? No, and I'm not aware of him. I'm not aware of him. I mean, guys, there are messed up things in the Talmud.
Yeah.
There
For
are clearly messed up things that we would look at. And matter of fact, I've seen this from Jews. I've seen from Jews saying, "Hey, there are sections in here where we Jews will look at that and go, whoa!" And that's why they're encouraging careful study and actually look at the ongoing debate and so on. But this guy, Nick Fuentes, is he quoting anything and representing it accurately? I have not seen him quote anything that he is representing accurately once you actually go to the passage. And guys, that's if that doesn't bother you, groypers, then you just don't care. And in which case, stop acting like you are the champions of truth and justice in the world. You're rallying around a deceiver who's trying to lie to people to get them to go fight Jews.
This is one very interesting thing to point out, in my opinion, as somebody who is not a Christian and who doesn't have a horse in this race. I would like to point out that
see, you're like a horse. You see,
if a supposed Christian nationalist, which is a modern code for fascist, has a problem with the comparison that is being made here in the Talmud, which is not meant to indicate that Gentiles are animals, then David and Michael enlighten me about doesn't Jesus in the Gospels also make a comparison between animals and another being, like
the Bible says those things about just sinners in general. Calls us beasts and stuff like this. And
doesn't Jesus say in Matthew giving the food to the dog?
So you're thinking of the woman where
he healed her daughter.
Jesus goes to Tyre and Sidon to get like a break or something, and a Canaanite woman is coming up.
There's a Canaanite woman.
Heal my daughter. And he goes, it's not right for me to give the food that belongs to the children to the little dog. Now, people get offended when they hear that. They don't realize the term Jesus is using is not a derogatory term.
Whoa,
Jesus
says all non-Christians are animals, and they are dogs. Look at this.
Yeah, it's an analogy. And the term he uses is not even a derogatory term. It refers to like a very pampered house pet, if I recall. And so basically he's making an analogy, and then, in the same gospel, Matthew, at the end, he says, now that everything has been fulfilled, I've resurrected, there's atonement. Now you can be the light to the nations. Now take the gospel to all the nations, which is what Israel was supposed to do. Jesus in his ministry is working with Israel because he's setting them up to be the church to take the gospel to the nations. This is why at this point with the Canaanite woman, he says it's not right for me to do this yet. He does it anyway, though, because he's a merciful God. But he's basically saying, look, right now he's setting up the whole ministry of Israel being the light to the nations. This is what the early church was. They were all Jews. And that's kind of what's set up, and that's how it ends in the Gospel of Matthew. Now we take this to the whole nation. So that's generally the whole historical framework of that whole story. Yeah. All right, let's hear the next lie from Fuentes.
Gentiles are not human; they're beasts. A Jew.
Wow.
No, not in there.
Wrong.
That is horribly taken out of, horribly misrepresented. Yeah. It's not even there. I'm not saying taken out of context. It's not even there.
Yeah, I found the passage, the closest passage.
Bava Metza 114.
The closest passage to that was talking about graves, and the question was, how is this? Was he a priest or something like that? It's like, how is this guy standing in the Gentile graveyard? And that should make him unclean. Why is he going there if it's something that will make him unclean? And the defense of that guy from a rabbi was that because God says to the Jews, "You are my people, you are the sheep of my pasture," therefore they're not in the same group with you, and therefore their dead bodies don't make you unclean.
Yeah.
So they're not the same category. So you could say, hey, we're in different categories here, and you could even he says something strong, like they're not people or something like that, or they're not in a whatever it is. So you can say that, but this is not in the context of like killing people and stuff. It's like, does one group's bones make you unclean versus another group's bones making you unclean?
Let me just read from it. This is Bava Metzia 114b 2. So he says, this is what it says. As it is taught Rabbi Shimon ben Yehoai, I'm probably butchering that, says the graves of Gentiles do not render one
By the way,
impure as it is
that's
stated.
the extreme hardline guy that they keep quoting. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, are man, which teaches that you, i.e., the Jewish people, are called man, but Gentiles are not called man, since the Torah states with regard to ritual impurity imparted in a tent, if a man dies in a tent, evidently impurity imparted by the tent does not apply to Gentiles. So actually what it's doing is it's taking the word from Ezekiel 34, 31, and you, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, are man. It says, look, that phrase, are man, that's referring to the Jews. The men in that are not the Gentiles in that basic passage. So the men are, it's not encompassing Gentiles in that quote we're getting from Ezekiel. So again, he's taking it wildly out of context. I doubt Fuentes has even looked this up.
He didn't look at it. Let me make it very simple. Ezekiel 34:31 says, "As for you, my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, you are mankind, and I am your God, declares the Lord God." The rabbi here in this part of the Talmud simply cites Ezekiel 34:31, and then says, "This here is evidence that when it talks about man." It is referring to Jews, not to non-Jews.
Yes, exactly.
And so the law refers to the Jews, not to non-Jews. That's all it is saying. But then here comes the neo-Nazi and it's like, you see, it says we are not human beings, we are animals.
And by the way, there's a reason for him to be pointing that out, that rabbi to be pointing that out, because you see this over and over again among the rabbis, that one of them will quote and say, hey, this does not say children of Israel here. This just says man. This just says man here. And therefore, this would apply. This is something that would apply to everyone. Like when it's, I don't even think he has it here, but one of the common quotations is, if a Gentile learns the law, he should be killed, right? You look at it, and one of the rabbis is saying the reason he should be killed. Keep in mind, they're not giving actual death sentences here. The rabbis had no authority to issue a death sentence that was not for something that is explicitly mentioned in the Torah. They would just say, this guy deserves death. This guy deserves death for this. But the reasoning was, if the law was given to the Jews, and the Jews therefore had the law, and you come and take it, it's like you're committing robbery or adultery, and therefore you deserve death. Notice that was a rabbi saying that. Another rabbi said, no. If a Gentile learns the law, he's like our high priest. And it says, it says the man who does these things shall live by them. So notice, and they point out, they say there it says man, a man who lives by them. It doesn't say a Levite or a descendant of Israel. It doesn't say any of that. It just says the man who lives by them. Therefore, Gentiles are allowed to learn the law, and they should be respected for it. So those are the things you have. But notice what the response to the hardline approach was, hey, it says man here. It doesn't just say a Jew or something like that. So that's why he's pointing out that in Ezekiel, even though it says man, God is clearly talking to the children of Israel. So he's sort of flipping this method on them, saying, okay, even though it says man, here in this context, we see it's specifically referring to Jews. He says, therefore, the law only applies there. But yes, you don't get this. If you actually read the passage in context, you're not getting Gentiles are not humans, they're beasts, and therefore you could just slaughter them however you want. It's a massive misrepresentation of even what the rabbi is saying. Even let alone that this is the position of the entire Talmud, and this is what all non-atheist Jews go by.
The next quote will be even worse.
It is. Yeah. This next one is even worse.
May violate but not marry a non-Jewish girl.
You want to play that again?
Yeah, play it again.
Let me go back a little bit.
Play it again, Sam. Hey, you groypers, give us the source on this. We want to look this one up, but we can't find it anywhere in the Talmud.
Gentiles are not human, they're beasts.
Okay, next one.
A Jew may violate but not marry a non-Jewish girl.
A Jew may violate but not marry a non-Jewish girl. Groypers, give us the source on that one.
So if you look it up online, it's God Shosh 2.2. That's not an abbreviation of any of the tractates in the Talmud. It's
not an actual source.
It doesn't exist. The question was asked to many rabbis as well. And so Shas is a term that can be used for the Talmud in general. And God is, simply from the Torah. There is no book anywhere that is called God, or that is called God Shas, belonging to the Talmud, this source is entirely made up. It does not exist. It never did exist. So, and this is a huge example of Nick Fuentes simply taking these online memes. I have the image in front of me, like 2 forms of them right now, where these things are listed. He takes that very same thing and just lists these supposed quotes without fact checking them, or maybe he did fact check them. Maybe he knows it doesn't exist, but he doesn't care because all he needs to do is to rile people up against the Jews. So, dear Nazis, why does your hero here lie? Why does he blatantly lie?
That's the big problem.
If he's not lying, where's the source here?
Yeah, give us the source, guys. We're talking to all you. You hundreds of you groypers there cheering for Nick right now. He just gave you a quotation. We're asking for the source because we all tried to look it up, and it's all from a made-up source. That it's not the Talmud. It doesn't exist in there. At least we couldn't find it. So if you actually have looked into this, you're the experts. We're kind of new to this. So if you are the authorities and you trust this guy, give us the source. Now, if you try to look it up and you can't find it, and you find out it's a fabricated source, you only got 2 options. Either Nick is completely ignorant. He has no clue what he's talking about, and he's actually calling. He's actually calling for some massive intolerance towards Jews based on these things he's quoted. So either he has no clue, he just looked at a list that he saw on Twitter one day and just went with it and didn't bother to look up anything, in which case you should not be listening to him about, people you're supposed to eventually be waging war against. Or 2, as AP pointed out, the other option is he does know and he knows he's lying. So you're dealing with someone who is completely ignorant or a liar. He's ignorant, in which case you shouldn't be listening to him, or he's a liar, in which case you shouldn't be listening to him. But I have a strange feeling because of the cult tactics that are going on with groups these days, that what we just showed you is not going to bother you even slightly. It's not going to cause any sort of concern for you. Why? Because you just don't care. It's not about actual evidence and him being accurate with the information he's presenting. You hate Jews, he hates Jews. Therefore, let's all just pretend that this is what the Talmud says, and you just don't care. In which case, great. We don't need to listen to
2 options, but there is always option number 3, which will be the popular choice. Since the source does not exist, it must mean that the Jews erased it.
You see,
they hid it. They got rid of it.
Isn't that funny? If you're deep enough into the conspiracy theories, right, you could say that. Like, hey, Nick Fuentes says this is in the Talmud. I can't find that in the Talmud. That's because the Jews covered it up and hid it from the Talmud. Well, how does this guy have access to it?
Where's the secret Talmud tractate? I love to see it, Groypers, but yeah. All right, let's get to the next one here.
I want to say one very quick thing. I don't want to pause too much, but a lot of people who are supporters of Nick Fuentes, or even others, say, why would you defend the Talmud? Why would you defend Jews? Why would you defend Judaism? I just want to say one quick thing. The purpose here is not to defend Jews or to defend Judaism or to do any of that stuff, primarily. Not. The main purpose here is to counter some incredibly ignorant, primitive, idiotic movement and its attempts to hijack public religious and socio-political sentiments in order to establish an ideological movement that is entirely based on hate, an ideological movement that is meant to separate people by races and oppress people by their religious affiliations and origins. We are here to simply correct that and to expose how that movement, led by people like Nick Fuentes, is built on lies. That's the point.
And I will add, the thing is that, again, there's a lot of young men who have been disenfranchised in this country, and they have flocked to Fuentes because the pendulum sometimes swings too far to the other side. Mm-hmm. And hopefully some of them realize they're being lied to and manipulated to become hateful, anti-Christian folk that just go after people for their race. And I want to stop that as much as possible. So, yeah, I'm very happy to go out and to defend the Jewish people when this kind of stuff comes out, because as a Christian, I'm called to love all people, pray for my enemies, and help the weak, help those that are being attacked and hated. Of course, I would go after this horrible kind of stuff. This is actually very much in line with our Christian history. I mean, look at during the plague of the 1300s, the Pope was protecting the Jews as they were being attacked by random crazy peasant Europeans. The Pope during World War II, very anti-Hitler, gave basically the seal they could kill Hitler because it would have been a righteous act to kill this nut job. There's a great book called Church of Spies, which points out that the Pope was trying to actively assassinate Hitler. So for all you Catholics out there that think that, your religion is all for being anti-Jewish, you guys should really read up on your history here. Read the book Church of Spies. You might learn something. So let's get to this next one here.
I think that means they can rape. So they can rape our women, just can't marry them.
Yeah, in this imaginary made-up source.
Women are in a state of filth.
Yeah, just pause it right. Just pause it right there, because I don't think people really understand how messed up this is. This is a guy who has a bunch of stupid young followers going, "Oh, we're groypers," and he's telling them their book says they can rape your women. It says it, and these guys are too stupid to actually say, you know what? Before we run around saying this, let's actually look this up. Let's verify it. Let's verify it by going to the source. Because if you went to it, you find out there is no source. It's a made up source. To
only a Jew would look it up.
Yeah. And so this is the concern, guys, that everyone who's watching this is going, wow, that's really messed up that the Talmud says that. How does it never cross anyone's mind to look this stuff up? Because it doesn't. I haven't seen one of his fans saying, guys, after he said it, I looked it up and it's not in there. So maybe we need to rethink what we're accepting from this guy. Doesn't seem to bother him. But that's what's going on around the world right now. People nervous about something that's going on in society. They rally around some guy who's attacking the group that they're worried about. And then this guy starts leading him in a very dangerous path, and he becomes unquestionable. You cannot question him. You have to mindlessly accept everything that he says. You cannot question. And anyway, this is
so for any Daniel Hakikichu fans watching, it's called Googling. You go and you Google it. It's research. That's what you do when someone makes a claim. You go and you fact check it. That's what you're supposed to do.
You could even read the abstract, but under no circumstances do you read the entire article.
No, never.
So they can rape our women, just can't marry them. Gentile women are in a state of filth from the time they're born.
Nope, doesn't say that.
There is actually a source that says something. It's it means impurity, like spiritual impurity.
Ritual impurity.
Yeah. And so it's like the sort of ritual impurity that you would get from menstruation and so on. But the context of that passage, and again, guys, it did not take us long to look up all these things that he's been quoting for years and have been quoted for a century. And no one ever bothers to look them up. Until us? Like, we're the first people to say, hey, let's actually go to the Talmud and look these passages up. But in the context, it's talking about why food that's prepared by Gentiles should not be consumed by Jews. So we're familiar with that. That was a big discussion in the Bible as far as Jews and Gentiles eating together. It became a big issue in the early church. Like, hey, because the Gentiles are becoming Christians now, is it okay for us to actually eat? That became a little dispute when Peter went over to the Jewish table and didn't eat with the Gentiles. And then Paul calls him out. It's like, hey, you can't do that. So that's an issue even there. But the context of this passage is why is the food of the Gentiles unclean? And they give a bunch of possible explanations from the rabbis. One of the rabbis says this: it's because they don't have the law and they're in a state of perpetual spiritual uncleanness. And some of the other options was because you don't, which you see from the Apostle Paul when he's discussing it. So he's familiar with these issues as well. They're just saying, okay, well, you don't know what they've blessed with idol worship and stuff like this. So you don't want to be eating some of their food that they've dedicated to idols or something like that. Anyway, it gives different ideas about why you don't eat the food of the Gentiles. How does this get represented? Gentile women are in a state of filth from the time they were born. And all Jews believe that. All Jews who aren't atheists believe this. That's Nick's position, and it's a rabbi giving that as an explanation for why you don't eat.
One rabbi.
It even gives examples of, if you read the English on Sepharia.org, you can see it talks explicitly about a Gentile child imparts ritual impurity, and then it describes what to do and what to know about ritual impurity. It says ritual impurity. It literally says that, because that is what is being
Filth.
discussed here. But
Filth.
if you want to take impurity and want to go to different sources, I know some Muslims brought up these lists as well and said, look what the Talmud says about Gentiles. David, you know very well, in Quran chapter 9 verse 28, it says that that the polytheists are impure, right? It says they shall not come to
they're najis, they're filthy.
they're najis, they're filthy. Don't let them approach the masjid. So
Yeah,
this is not even comparable to that.
Yeah, it's talking about ritual purity, guys. And so again, just look it up in the actual Talmud. I believe the actual source on this one is Avodah Zara 22 is where you actually go and read this. So some of the Groypers, why don't you go read this stuff? I mean, like, if you think Jews are actually your enemy, why don't you actually read their playbook? I mean, I've read large sections of the Talmud. I don't agree with everything I see in there. There's a lot of problems, and even Jews will acknowledge that. But you guys don't even know what it says. So
I think it's actually Avodah Zarah 36b, what is being referred to here.
Okay, you might be right. Yeah. All right, let's hear. I think we have 2 more of these clips to go through.
If a Gentile hits a Jew, he must be killed. But when a Jew murders a Gentile, there will be no death penalty. So it's a little double standard.
This might be one of the most complicated to actually understand and explain.
Yeah.
I only looked up the first part there, because by that time I was like, seeing him actually quote completely made up sources and so on, and everything else is out of context. I was like, okay, I don't really need to look the rest of these up. But
it shows up in a list of a bunch of different rabbis' opinions, and then you read the later rabbis. So they come after. It's at Sanhedrin 58. You read like the first one, I believe it's in 18, and it says like, if a Gentile hits a Jew, he should be killed, because this is the representatives of God. These are like,
and it specifically refers to it refers to Moses, right? Like Moses, Moses saw the Egyptian beating a Jew, and he killed the man. So they say, okay, but there you go.
If you read past it, like 21, 22, it's other rabbis' opinions saying that these are different opinions. So like Rabbi Hania, one who raises his hand to strike another is called a sinner, as if stated. And the priest lad would come and would say to him, but you shall give now, and if not, I will take by force. Rabbi Huna says his hand should be cut off, as it is stated. This is talking about people in general, mind you. Rabbi Elazar says such a violent person has no remedy but burial, as it is stated, as a mighty man who has earth. The expression literally means a man of an arm. So yet anyone, generally speaking, in the verse is interpreted to mean that one habitually strikes others deserve to be buried. So you're getting, it's like in a list of a bunch of different rabbis' opinions here. So you get contradictory statements here, and they're not pointing that out.
And by the way, I mean, it's like if you look at the Groypers in the chat, I mean, the level of stupidity rivals any of like the Hikikachu fans or anything like that. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, think about this, guys. Nick Fuentes says, the Talmud says this. We point out that it's a made-up source. It does not exist. It is not in the Talmud. And they, lol, defending the Talmud, lol, take the L, defending the Talmud. Like, wait. Notice what they actually believe in their showing. They actually believe someone on their side can completely fabricate something. I mean, they could just come out and say, hey, did you know that in the Talmud it says... beat the apostate prophet senseless every day and torture him for fun and grab little puppies and just beat them and torture and knock old ladies off bridges. And you can just make anything up. And if we say, guys, can you actually give us a ref? Can you actually show us that?
Why are you defending the Talmud?
Oh my goodness, he's defending it. Hello, so stupid, so stupid. Yeah, we're the stupid ones for actually reading sources, looking up sources. That makes us dumb. You guys, the guys who mindlessly accept anything some idiot Hitler wannabe says, you're the champions of reason and truth and justice in the world. Just saying it sounds stupid.
I'm not going to say the Talmud is perfect. I mean, there's a section in the Talmud where it says, don't leave your animals with Gentiles because they might commit bestiality. Like, that's one rabbi's opinion. It's horrible. I completely point that out for being horrible. I know Jews will point that out for being horrible. And again, it's one opinion of one of these bad rabbis that they don't take as gospel. Sure, you can find bad stuff in there. But notice how easy it is for me to find something that's actually in the Talmud, and Nick has got to make things up. Like, it's just horrible reasoning.
Yeah, and it is. And I mean, the entire, even if you didn't focus on individual quotations, which are often made up, completely fabricated, just the entire picture he's given. These are the list of things. This is what their book says, and they believe in this. Just stating what this actually is, that it's recording an ongoing debate about how to act. And this rabbi said this. Oh, this rabbi said the opposite. This later rabbi came up and went in with a middle position and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And is he at all? I mean, is he even in the ballpark of representing any of this accurately? No. And his fans do not care. This is guys. This is a classic example of cult tactics in action.
So this last quote
only
is
Jews do fact checking. Only Jews look things up.
You fact check, you're a Jew.
This last line is apparently on lying, and I looked this one up, and again, he's taking this one wildly out of context, but let's play this one.
They kill us, no problem. We kill them or hit them, you die instantly. Those are the rules. And then this is the best part, because I know they'll come in and clarify, and a lot of them want to run interference. They say, no, you just don't understand. That's not actually what it means. You're just interpreting it wrong.
And that's a made-up source.
It's a made-up source,
That's
dude.
a made-up source.
But this is the last part, and this is my favorite part. It says this: Jews may use lies to circumvent the Gentiles.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Ooh.
does it now, Nikki? Does it, Nikki?
Where's the source? Can you just tell me what exactly it says? Can you quote it? Like, can you do the very same thing?
And I don't know,
we
because
generally do
I
when
told
we
you I
criticize
already
religions?
gave up looking up
Yeah.
these sources after he was 0 for 8.
Can you
So
imagine if
this-
we did this, David? Can you imagine if
Yeah.
if our criticism of Islam consisted of just going on a stage or going live and saying the Quran says kill all the disbelievers, the Quran says you can rape them, the Quran says this and that, and we never give sources? Can you imagine? how dumb
Or
that would be?
even more extreme, AP, if we went through the entire history of debates of Muslim sheikhs over their understanding, and we quoted Muslim sheikhs who said something at some point that's really, really bad, that is not found in the actual Quran or from Muhammad. It's just something that some sheikh said at some point, and other sheikhs contradicted him and quoted the sources that show that he's wrong and so on. But we just quote that sheikh and say, you see, this is the official position of Islam, and all Muslims believe this. We wouldn't do it, because we're not like, I mean, what actually happens in discussions? We say, oh, look, it says right here, fight those who do not believe in Allah and so on. And Muslims say, oh, you're taking that out of context. We say, let's read the context. Let's actually go to the source, because we're not making up the source. Let's read it in context. Why do we quote the Muslim scholars and so on to show that, for 14 centuries, they all interpret this in one standard way. And it's not until you get to the modern age where they start interpreting things differently. So we actually go through, we quote the Muslim sources, and then we examine the context. We examine what their greatest scholars and so on say. That's like the opposite of what this dude's doing. I mean, one, just completely made up sources some of the time. Other times, just like if you actually understood what the Talmud is, you would not be acting like, Jews walk around with this list of commands in their pockets about how they're going to, kill all Gentiles and so on. This is the takeaway. This is the takeaway of the Talmud. I mean, it's just guys. I mean, I knew nothing about this guy until very recently when he was there with
Sneeko.
And then before that, I saw him with Kanye. Didn't know anything about him before that.
No.
But it's like I'm looking at this going, I would not trust this guy with anything, let alone to be a leader of a movement. This guy's a freaking liar.
Hey, speaking of Kanye, what's funny? I'm sorry, IP, you keep wanting to talk, and I
want to get I'm going to read the actual Talmudic source here.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah, the thing about Kanye, which is very funny. I know this is petty right now, but I just want to be petty for a second. Nick Fuentes went on Just Pearly Things channel and gave an interview there, and he was acting very cool, and he was bragging about Kanye. Because Kanye fired everyone who was ever around him, and he didn't like Milo. He fired Milo and all of that, and then he brags and he's like, but not me. He loves me. He loves me. He wouldn't fire me. And then, not much later, Nick Fuentes got fired by Kanye.
Love it. So
it's so ridiculous.
So here's the actual Talmudic source. It's Bava Kama 1 BAVA KA MMA 113A. So I'll read the full context. Rav Ashi said the Mishnah issues its ruling with regard to a Gentile customs collector. So specifically a customs collector, whom one may deceive as it is taught in the case of a Jew and a Gentile who approach the court for judgment in a legal dispute. If you can vindicate the Jew under Jewish law, vindicate him and say to the Gentile, this is our law. If he can be vindicated under Gentile law, vindicate him and say to the Gentile, this is your law. And if it is not possible to vindicate him under either system of law, one approaches the case circuitously, seeking a justification to vindicate the Jew. This is the statement of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva disagrees and says, one does not approach the case in order to vindicate the Jew due to the sanctification of God's name, as God's name will be desecrated if the Jewish judge employs dishonest means. Okay. Then it goes on to say, and even according to Rabbi Akiva, the reason that the court does not employ trickery in order to vindicate the Jew is only because there is a consideration of the sanctification of God's name. Consequently, if there is no consideration of the sanctification of God's name, the court does approach the case. Apparently, it is permitted to deceive a Gentile. So in this really specific context, you have a customs collector trying to take something away from a Jew, which is considered sacred or something that is they are allowed to have according to their own law. Then you can use deception in that sort of case. That's the very specific thing. This is not saying you can just lie to Gentiles left and right. It specifically says you cannot lie to them if God's name is going to be desecrated. So, which would cover a whole lot of other things, especially if you're basing it on the Torah, for example, and the very specific verses in Leviticus where you cannot deceive, you cannot lie, you cannot bear false witness, these kinds of things. So it's only in this one very, very, very specific instance can you ever deceive. So that's the actual context. But Fuentes just takes that one line that he got off some list offline somewhere, takes it wildly out of context. The Talmud does not say you can just lie to Gentiles left and right. So this is just a blatant lie. Ironic.
That's exactly how you would take it if you're one of his fans and you heard him say it. You would take it as they can just lie all they want and just misrepresent everything and lie about what's in all their sources and so on. And it's not what is actually, and what's amazing. I mean, what's still amazing. Look at his fans in the chat. If you go to the context and you show it doesn't actually mean what he's representing it as meaning, you're the bad one. You're the bad one. The good person is the one who takes the quotation completely out of context or completely fabricated and made up, completely misrepresents what it is, completely misrepresents what the book is, and so on. Misrepresents basically every single level of what a passage means, and that makes you the good guy. That's the champion, and you need to build your life around him and be a good groiper. That's the definition of a good groiper.
Yeah, it's these brown shirts out here, they don't think, and that's what Nick wants. He doesn't want his followers to think. He wants you to fall in line so he can have you die in his holy war, which is very dangerous if you think about it. If that's the way you want to live, okay, well, you can stand before God on Judgment Day and explain why you followed a moron when you were warned not to.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic. And I mean, notice it's one thing if you're just really, really stupid and you listen to this guy and you don't realize you shouldn't trust him. Guys, just the bare fact that we showed you, hey, he's quoting this as the Talmud. It's not in the Talmud. It's a fabricated quotation. That should be all you need to know to say. Anything he says that sounds really serious or bad or something, I need to look it up. And if you're not like that, you have no excuse. You are finding that a guy is lying to your face and you don't care as long as he's on your side. If he's lying to my face, it's fine with me as long as he's on my side. And what's crazy is notice we see the same thing from like Andrew Tate and something where if you are his followers and you see him, I never sold drugs. And then you see all these old clips of him saying that he sold drugs and so on. It's like, okay, how much more obvious could he be that he's lying to you? Do Andrew Tate's fans care even slightly? No, they don't. They just don't. And that's becoming this big problem right now. Rally around some charismatic figure or something like that who's saying a bunch of things that you like. And if he's lying to you, good, because lies are important nowadays, and that just seems to be the view that everyone's going
That's
with.
a very, very fair and interesting point to consider, which is when Nick Fuentes goes out and lies on a rally like this, it demonstrably lies. We just showed it. That he's not just lying to his opponents, he's not lying to us, he's directly lying to the very people who support him there, who go and say, Nick Fuentes, yeah, he is lying to his fans. He's lying to you guys.
Oh, I just came up with an awesome conspiracy theory. Nick Fuentes is actually working for the Jews to make anti-Semites look like complete morons who are liars.
That's the most logical conspiracy I've heard in a long
That's
time.
the only sense I can. That's the only sense I can make out of this.
Well, I do know that
all of his Groyper fans are all paid by Jews to show that the anti-Semites are the dumbest morons on the planet, apparently.
Well, I do know that there are some Jews that are pretending not to be working Fuentes, so I do know that as a fact. So there are already things they don't realize how bad they are at this. So I mean, like, there's all that going on. But I did want to move ahead a little bit to where he starts talking about what he wants to do if he were to get charged and become king of America.
I haven't even seen this, so this will be new to me.
Is this where he mentions that he wants to get rid of democracy and get rid of? Is this
no, I don't think that this is where he wants to kick out all the immigrants, and he starts talking. This is where he gets really racist because he starts saying how much better Europeans are, and like it's really disgusting.
People are pouring in illegally, legally, and they're having kids. They're having lots of kids. They all feel very strongly about our country, about our people, about our culture. And newsflash, the next time it's a George Floyd, the next Nahel, like it is in France, guess who it's going to be? Looting, burning, rioting, tearing up the cities. It's going to be the second and third generation of immigrants. That's why they have to go now. That's why they have to go today.
And I've got 500 18-year-old followers. So we're going to get it done.
500 guys, it's over. Those immigrants are going to lose.
It's done. We've won.
Send them back. 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 And not send some of them back, not send some, the criminals. We have to send every single last illegal back home today. Gotta go. Every single one, and it could be a great thing. How many of you would volunteer to deport all these people? And that was an option. Everybody?
All 500 of us, Nick.
I mean, this is a brown shirt movement. This is very Nazi-like. Let's get these volunteers to go around and ruffle up people that are not German or white, and it's brown shirts. That's what he's doing here. This is the exact same tactics Hitler employed. Let me get all my volunteers around to go up and get the immigrants out of the country. That's basically what Hitler was doing in the 20s and early 30s.
So here's the thing. So there is one aspect of what he says that I don't necessarily have a big objection to, which is that illegal immigrants, don't necessarily belong, and that illegal immigrants should go back. I could say, okay, you could say that is a fair political statement. It is not necessarily, racism, Nazism. This can be actually a quite mainstream conservative talking point, or was even a communist talking point over the last century. And you could make arguments for that. But of course, that is not all that is being said here. What is being said here is not just we shouldn't have illegal immigration. And I agree with parts of that. I think illegal immigration is quite harmful. It causes disorder on many levels.
I agree.
But that's not the point here. The point of him is specifically to deport, to make a separation between races. Earlier in the discussion, he talks very much about how this is a white nation and a white country, and you shouldn't.
Well, he's about to say that again.
You shouldn't be surrounded by black people and things like that. It's more than just illegal immigration.
And by the way, this is all part of the manipulation. We see the same thing with Andrew Tate and stuff. He'll say a bunch of things where people are like, "He's right about that," and then when he says the horrible, evil stuff, you say, "Oh, look at this horrible, evil stuff." You say, and they go, "But he's right about that." Yeah, that's no manipulator in the world is going to come to you, ladies and gentlemen, and say 100% false things. They're going to say a lot of things that you agree with, they're just going to use those things to send you in a really, really messed up, very dangerous direction.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so if you're talking about,
Very
so notice, oh, look at them burning, look at these guys burning France to the ground over this stuff. What are we going to do? Okay. Yeah. There's a case to be made for taking the troublemakers and locking them up or deporting them or whatever you're going to do. He understands that his listeners will agree with that. But notice, he actually wants a much more extreme position.
Oh, yeah. He's about to get into that. Yeah.
Yep.
And we got to send them back. That's the other thing. And we didn't touch on this too much, but this is the #1 reality in the world today, which nobody talks about. It's the most significant thing happening in the world, which is that Western white civilization, which is a civilization that gave us the modern world. This has been the civilization for 500 years.
No one talks
These
about
are the
it.
people that evangelized the New World. They evangelized Africa, Asia, created the railroads, the Industrial Revolution, created everything.
No one
This
talks about this.
civilization, and it's at that level. It's not just America. It's not just France. It's not just Canada. It's happening across the board. The entire civilization, which gave us everything that we love, is being destroyed purposefully and deliberately by mass migration. And the problem with mass migration, it's not that they're taking the jobs, it's not that they're committing too much crime, it's not that they don't assimilate, it's because they don't belong here. This is not their country. It's the bottom line. And they don't belong here because they're not like us. We can have some immigration. You can bring in probably 50,000, 100,000 people. It wouldn't make a big difference. We're bringing in 7 million illegal immigrants in just Joe Biden's first term alone. 7 million. We're getting to the point where whites will be less than 25% of the population by the end of the century.
So
That's not immigration. That's not an immigration program. That's an invasion. That is a straight up population replacement. And it's happening at a racial level.
But think about the melanin. Think about
the poor
melanin.
melon. This is pure stupid, and he's entering my wheelhouse here because I've done a lot of this sociological research here. He's making it as though there's something special about being European or having white skin. There's no evidence at all whatsoever that somehow makes you special or somehow is responsible for Western civilization. It's just blatantly false. I got studies. For example, there's one paper here that I have by Robert Woodbury, which I have cited numerous times, Missionary Roots of Liberal Democracy, noting that the colonial officials were going out, exploiting resources, taking you back to Europe, and Christian missionaries were the ones who were saying, like, no, you got to treat these people like equals. You just can't take their resources, and they would organize the people to form non-governmental organizations to rally for colonial reform, these types of things. There's another paper here that I have on, this is what page is this? So it's from the British Journal of Political Science, Competitive Religious Entrepreneurs, Christian Missionaries in Female Education in Colonial and Past Colonial India. What they note in this paper is that they did an OLS model and a multivariate analysis, and they looked at different factors of what led to more female education. Ultimately, it was missionaries, what they concluded. But they also note in this paper that direct British rule or colonialism did not correlate with increased education levels for boys or girls in India. So Western civilization didn't create better education in other regions. It was directly Christian missionary activity, which is not directly tied to being European. The benefits of Western civilization did never come from white skin, ethnicity. It's come from trade, resources, geography, and Christianity. Those are the main factors. It has nothing to do with white skin. He is basically committing a correlation causation fallacy here. He doesn't have any idea of the history of the sociology here, and he's making all sorts of fallacies.
And that's what I was pointing out that he does. He takes something that is a concern, even a legitimate, that is a legitimate question. How much immigration should you have? Especially if you have, you have people who go to another country illegally. Some of them are just, okay, I'm just coming from a hellhole. I just want to get out of this hellhole and go to someplace. But some people are criminals. Some people are just criminals and gang members and drug smugglers and everything else. So you're getting a mix. So, how do you deal with that problem? And, how many people do you take in? Do you take in 100,000? Do you take in 1 million if you can? Do you take in more? What do you do? Those are all legitimate questions. And there are things that lots of people could reasonably be concerned about and have a discussion about those kinds of things. But where does he take it? You see, they're going to replace you white people. There's going to be a lot more brown people around here unless we stop it right now. And so he turns your actual concerns about things like crime and drug smuggling and all these other issues and turns it into a concern about your skin color.
What's very interesting, what's very funny, you mentioned the influence of Christianity and how Christianity brought a lot of these good things that we appreciate.
Yeah, I bet that hurts your feelings, doesn't it, atheist?
No, it's actually, I'm very supportive of the idea, considering that that I'm aware of Roman history, of European history, of pre-Christian history, and if you learn a little bit about it, if you learn a little bit about the tribes of Europe, the Germanic tribes and all of that before the Romans arrived, and then before Christianity arrived and started spreading and things became civilized, you will find out that the European tribes and the European populations were pretty messed up and pretty barbaric, pretty savage before the arrival of pretty savage, pretty I guess you could if the average population today acted like I don't know, relatively adapting to the time right now, the way Western Europeans acted before the arrival of Christianity, you would call it degeneracy, you would call it filthy, you would call it disgusting, barbaric, whatever it is. It was the arrival of the Romans made things more orderly, and the arrival of Christianity made things much more civilized. Prior to that, Europeans didn't have a very good reputation. They didn't have a reputation of being very, very, very well educated, of being very peaceful, of having a lot of social cohesion and of building civilization. They didn't have any of these things. Christianity came as a means of scholarship and education and peace and building something rather than just fighting with each other, sacrificing each other, looting each other, raping each other, and so on. That said, I think it might be ironic to consider. I think that out of us three here, I might be the most appreciative of Western people and Western culture, and I really have a strong appreciation for Western people and Western culture. And I think Western culture is very distinct in being quite advanced and spreading wonderful things to the world, even today, which is why the world is quite often readily accepting of Western culture and everything that comes from the West. But that has nothing to do with the race. It has nothing to do with any of that. Correct. It is and this is even known in recent history as the Great Divergence, right, where the Europeans had a major shift and became extremely successful compared to the rest of the world, and basically started leading the world in cultural development and stuff like that. But this is about culture, and the change of whites or skin color will not change anything about that.
Well, I want to talk about that. So yes, Christianity, if you read Tom Holland's book Dominion, he talks about how Christianity basically radically changed Europe over the course of 2,000 years, producing this very big culture. However, that's only one factor. And Fuentes doesn't understand this because he doesn't know basic sociology, history, or geography. Look at Europe also basically spread its culture to South America and Latin America. These places are underdeveloped. They're very Catholic too, and Fuentes is Catholic, which he thinks is dominant. Why is North America so much better off than South America, even though it's basically European culture spreading through the Americas? It has everything to do with geography, resources. Two biggest things that determine how strong your country is are going to be trade and resources. Europe and America are designed naturally for trade. They're the two greatest places in the world where it's easy to trade goods because it's easy to transport goods. Look at all the natural indents in Europe. It's easy to get ships closer to places inland. There's navigable rivers like the Rhine or the Danube. You could easily get up and down these rivers, easily transporting goods. Look at the Amazon in South America. It's much harder to get goods in and out of the Amazon. It's also you also have that wild, crazy rainforest that blocks much of the land there. North America is built for trade. It is the greatest place on earth to trade. You have the longest system of navigable rivers, the Mississippi River chain. You also have a barrier islands around the East Coast and into the Gulf of Mexico, which again makes it easy for ships to go up and down the East Coast quite easily because you have that natural protection from the ocean. Then you have natural indents like the Chesapeake Bay, the Seattle Bay, the San Francisco Bay. These allow for natural ports to form, which again allow make trade much easier. Meanwhile, the Mississippi River chain goes right through the largest arable land in planet Earth, the Great Plains, and some of the largest natural gas and oil reserves on planet Earth as well. So it's easy to grow food. You have a lot of fresh water. You have natural resources like oil and natural gas, and you can easily transport them out down the river chain. Places like Africa or South America or the Middle East don't have these things. That's why they didn't develop as fast, because once Europe started uniting under certain countries, once America basically was united under this one culture, it was very easy to exploit those resources and develop a really successful trade network. If communists, if Africans, if Chinese, if anyone had gotten the American continent, North American continent, that is, it would have become a superpower regardless of the culture. Resources in trade are king. Fuentes thinks it's all just European culture or skin. That's not accurate. Christianity is responsible for a lot of the cohesion, the growth, scientific development in the West. However, it wouldn't have happened if there wasn't access to easy trade and resources that Europe and North America had. This is why South America is underdeveloped, because it doesn't have the same level of resources or easy trade networks that you can form quite easily in North America. So he doesn't understand the basics of these things, and yet he thinks he can be president. This is stuff I just know from very little study on the topic.
There's actually a very... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So, long story short, you're saying it's not the success of the United States and Europe is not because of the amount of melanin in your skin. It's not
correct.
Okay, it's other factors. It is.
We just
there
have to be on the right
are
lines.
reasons. You're saying there are reasons, and we have a pretty good idea of what the reasons are, but it's not the amount of melanin in our skin.
Correct.
It's a Jewish conspiracy.
Because that's the direction he went in. He said, look how successful things are over here. I'm saying, and if you know, they're going to take away they're going to add a bunch of melon into the equation.
Yeah, what he means by white people will become a minority, he basically means the heritage and then therefore the skin color and your makeup, the melanin. That is what's going to change. The culture is not changing. It's not really changing. It's at least not to such a great extent. I want to give a very quick example to what you just pointed out, Michael. Hungarians, the country Hungary. Hungarians are not they don't have much in common with the rest of Europe in terms of culture, in terms of ethnic origin and all of that. They're not really considered Europeans. They came as a nomadic people from the very far east. Came as nomadic people. They took over, they settled down, they built their land, they developed, but now they seem to be quite ahead of a lot of Eastern European nations, for example, and seem to be doing much better, seem to have much better living standards, a much better human development index score than many European nations. But hey, they are not really Europeans. They just settled there in Europe. How did that happen? Well, it happened because these nomadic people, many of them, it was their entire purpose to go westward, to go to Europe, because the places that they lived in, the steppes, they were not very suitable for growth, for development. Whereas people knew from the travels and the trades that Europe is a fascinating place that is perfect for living and for developing, which is why the Hungarians, among others, went westward, went to Europe, settled there, and began developing like the European people. It is not about race. It is not about any of that. It is about so many different circumstances that cannot be oversimplified the way Nick Fuentes does it.
Well, if you go back real in old time, before Christianity united Europe under sort of one basic culture and gave it the Western culture that we have today, what was one of the most powerful nations? It was Egypt. Why? Egypt had the Nile, easy to trade. You can go up and down the Nile quite easily. It was right in the center of culture. You could get resources from Africa and trade with the Mesopotamians. You get resources from Mesopotamia, trade with the Africans. That's why one of the reasons Egypt was so powerful and wealthy, because of trade and resources. Why is Europe and America so wealthy? Trade and resources. Now, you need some sort of way to unite people. This is why Christianity is also one of the variables that led to a lot of growth. But specifically in I'm finding a lot of the studies, it was a lot of it that really sort of exploded the growth in Europe was actually Protestant Christianity. There's a paper, Was Weber Wrong? A Human Capital Theory of Protestant Economic History, published in 2007. They note that what happened is Protestants started encouraging everyone to read the Bible. Very much so. Like everyone had to read. So they went mass printing on everything. Catholics eventually responded to compete with Protestants. So they started printing up massive material as well. So because you had this religious competition going on to try to win converts, everyone just started getting educated more. And that also led to exponential growth in Europe. So basically, it was this cultural boost from this idea that we believe the Bible teaches that everyone should read it. Therefore, we want everyone to read the Bible. And they just started educating people like crazy. So Protestant missionaries started it. Catholic missionaries responded. And then they just started educating everyone like crazy. So then other papers like Roland to Salem's paper, The Role of Protestantism in Democratic Consolidation Among Transitional States, notes that because this happened, Catholic and more so Protestant nations began to become more democratic, more focused on voice and accountability in government, political transformation, political stability, led to these really interesting democratic ideas, liberal ideas, which the Groypers don't like to admit, but that's what we eventually got out of this thing. So yeah, there's a lot of factors there, but the biggest ones, again, are resources, easy ways to trade, and of course, Christian values, I would say, is another major factor in there.
No, it's all Jews.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if places in Africa had the same trade network, same access to resources, growing food, they would have exponentially grown quite as much as we would have had. If Christianity, as it did spread there, it would have led to it. But yeah, let's into a little bit more here.
In fact, very controversial topic. But if you really want to look at these things, look at how African Americans compare to African cultures at the moment. African Americans are significantly diverging in terms of cultural development, behaviors, standards of living, and so on, because they live in America. Yeah. Does it have anything to do with race? It doesn't.
Nothing to do with race.
Significance. Yeah. You can go out to the places in America where this is happening. You go out to Los Angeles. You go out to San Francisco, New York City. This is a crystal ball. This is a look into the future. You want multiracialism. You want multiculturalism, cosmopolitanism, diversity. Go to San Francisco with a nice car. Let me know how that works out for you. Go to the south side of Chicago on Memorial Day weekend in the middle of the night on a Saturday. See how that goes for you.
I can actually take you to areas of West Virginia where I grew up, where it is almost completely white people, and you're going to get the crap beat out of you for looking like that dude. And they're going to take his stuff and rob him and break his stomp his dog. Everything. It's like,
yeah,
good point.
The people in Deliverance yell and squeal like a pig were white people. Let's be clear on that. Anyway, but notice this methodology. So, look at Chicago. Lots of violence there in Chicago. Look at San Francisco. You see, it's because of race. It's because of the race issue, not because of a bunch of bad ideas that are being circulated and like destroying populations.
Yeah, you could easily make that case. And of course, in inner cities, you also have a decline of Christianity. And there is some research to support that you do. Like, there's a study I have that was done in 53 different countries that show that as Christian religiosity declines, donations to charity decline, volunteers for charity will decline. I cited in my video, Is Christianity Harmful? If anyone wants to look it up. And basically it just shows that in a lot of these inner cities that have become quite secular, it's following that same effect. People get a little bit more violent, unfortunately. That's just on the broad. That doesn't mean every atheist is going to be violent,
AP.
but that's just AP. But that's just generally what the trend tends to be.
Atheists.
Mm-hmm.
Atheists.
What's happening is a public problem. And what I mean by that is everybody likes to say, so what? Touch grass, go outside, not a big deal. Don't ruin your career talking about these things. These are things that cannot be, the things that are being destroyed cannot be replaced easily. These are not things that you can go out and get. You can make a lot of money. You will never be able to buy a beautiful downtown in the middle of your city. You'll never be able to replace timeless artifacts, traditions, institutions. And these are the things that make our civilization worth preserving. Our civilization, the way it is now, will never produce another Mozart, another Rembrandt. It will never produce more great art, philosophers,
But we hope it'll
geniuses.
produce another Hitler.
What does this guy think the average population looked like in the time of Mozart? What does he think? What does he think society looked like in those times where philosophers and great artists emerged? Does he think everyone was like these very romantically depicted Europeans that you see in movies or on theater screens? That's not how things were. This is just such a dumb take.
Yeah, it's. I mean, his idea is that we can't reproduce these things. That's just ridiculous. I mean, what about Andy Warhol? I mean, there's another great artist that was very recent in the past. I mean, there's great artists happening now. I don't know what he's talking about here. So, like,
yeah,
sure.
like what in the world? Like, what in the world is he talking about? Like,
oh, they were white. Okay, they were white. That's Okay,
yeah. That's what I mean. You still got white people. You still got white people. So it's obviously something else. You still got tons of white people in Europe and in the U.S. What do you mean if you can't have another Mozart? What's the reason? Is it because like brown people are moving in? Because I think there are lots of factors involved in issues like that. But I mean, just social media and stuff fries people's brain. You're not the same as you. It's like philosophers. If you go back to Augustine and Thomas Aquinas and stuff like that, these are guys who had no distractions at all. And you could just focus on what you're doing, and you had nothing else to do in your entire life except be that thing. Now there are all these drains on your attention and so on. But what in the name of common sense does that have to do with race or anything else that he's talking about? I don't get it.
No, in his reality, I guess we would never get a George Washington Carver or Frederick Douglass or Albert Einstein, for example, because these people are not traditionally white Europeans. I mean, Einstein's Jewish, so like you can, of course, non-Europeans do great things when they're given the resources. So like. I don't know what he's talking about here.
Einstein was Jewish, you see.
You can buy a plastic car, you can buy a Tesla, you can buy a nice condo. It doesn't replace these things. It's a public problem, and it's happening at a civilizational level. So therefore, it would follow that this requires a public solution at the civilizational level. There is no substitute. There is no alternative. We have to take over the government and send all these people back. That's it. That's all you can do.
Like, what kind of fantasy land does this guy live in? Like, yeah. let me break this down for you very quickly. All right. So I'm pretty darn white. I married my wife. She's half white, half white, half Asian. Her sister is half white, half Asian, who married a guy who is half white, half black. My brothers are part Hispanic. Their dad was half Nicaraguan. And my oldest son is courting a woman who is half white, half Hispanic. And so the point is, like, that's how quickly you don't have to go back very far to where you weren't allowed to be mixing races. And now here we are just a few decades later, and everything is being mixed up. So the point here is, 20 years from now, what hope do you have? It's all mixed up. Yes, you will still have like just, pure white people over here, pure this over here and something like that. But the bulk of the population is going to be some level of mixture, which means if you really want to rile up a crowd about race, you have to do it right now, because 20 years from now, you're going to sound even more idiotic and insane than you do right now. And so this is why you got to make your move now, white nationalists. Nationalists and groypers of the world. You got to make your move right now, because the rest of us are all mixing it up.
Pragmatically, what he's proposing would not make sense at all. It's how are you going to round up so many non-whites in this country and export, get them out of the country? You can't do that. Like, you would have a civil war, which you would easily lose, because most whites are going to join against him.
500 groypers? You think that they would lose a civil war? Are you mad, man? These just said there's 500 of them. Those 500, they're going to take. What sort of fantasy land? And it's Sneeko, I did see the clip on Twitter of Sneeko saying that this guy's going to be president of the United States. And so it's like, how delusional, like how insane and delusional do you have to be that you think your 500 moron fans who are too stupid to look up anything you say, so they can't tell when you're lying to them, but everyone else can look things up and see when you're lying. You're going to take over the government of the United States, round up everyone who's not white, and send them to other places. And it's like, guys, I understand that, fantasies can be fun. You got fantasies and you imagine, oh, look, here's what it'd be like if I were with all the Kardashians. I can do it in my mind right now. Yeah, you could do all this stuff in your mind. Like, practically speaking, you guys, I mean, are you serious? Like, is this like some joke and we're missing it? Because this is like beyond insane and idiot. This guy, this freaking loser who only appeals to the absolute dumbest morons I've ever seen in my life. And I interact regularly with guys who follow the Dawa guys. And I thought their followers were dumb. You guys are like, you take the taco on this one. And so, but I mean, are you serious? You think you 500 morons, because you're in a room cheering, yay, he said that about the Talmud, him so good, him so smart, he read a list off Twitter, haha, that's our guy, that'll make him president, and then we're going to round up everyone who disagrees, everyone who's darker than a brown paper bag, we're going to take all of them and put them somewhere else so we could just be white and not have to sit like.
Hey, you know what's the dumbest thing about this?
I just wanted to say, if you are stupid enough to fall for that and take that seriously, you kind of deserve to be manipulated. You kind of deserve it. Like you're begging for a guy like this to come along and use you. So be a Fuentes fan, be a Tate fan. I know they don't get along, but be a Tate fan. Pick who you want your manipulator to be, because you're what's called in psychology, you're called a soft target. You're a soft target because you're easy. These guys can spot you.
Well, I would just say the Second Amendment is available to non-white people. So good luck rounding up entire communities of people that are African American, Asian American. Because what's that clip of the riots during in LA of the Chinese grocery owners with guns? I mean, if he actually thought he could do this, he would create a civil war, which he would easily lose. Because
no, he wouldn't. He said he's going to take over the government. So this guy right in front of us, he's going to be able to command the United States Armed Forces, which happens to have a lot of racial diversity in there. But there's going to be a civil war of the armed forces, and then they're going to fight, and then the white people are going to win, and then those white people are going to go put everyone else in and move them out of the. It's like, guys, are you serious?
You know what's so
these guys are dumb enough to go, yeah, that's what we're going to do. It's going to happen.
You know what's so stupid about this whole thing? The hypocrisy.
What's not stupid about this?
Amazing. So Nick Fuentes is here on stage. Earlier in the speech, he talks about degeneracy. He talks about sexual degeneracy and stuff like that. He talks about how we should become upright Christians, which he himself is probably not, as it seems. And then he also praises Sneeko, and his crowd applauds Sneeko. What the very funny thing here is, Sneeko is. I think he's half black, half Asian. He's not he's not racially European or white. He lives a very degenerate life by everything that Nick Fuentes describes as degenerate. Like, he talks about returning to proper Christian values and Western values, and the family and all of that. Sneeko has multiple girlfriends. Sneeko has threesomes, probably engages in orgies. Sorry for getting into all of this right now, but the hypocrisy is just too brutal here. Sneeko is repeatedly interacts, goes in circles where he talks about these things and talks about body counts and all of that. But he happens to be one of the close allies right now, probably just due to publicity. And if you look at his other allies, there are so many contradictions out there. He was close to Milo. Now they are fighting. Milo. Everyone who knows about Milo knows that Milo is not the best representation of an anti-degeneracy way of living. And then he's also friends with this one pedophile guy and defends him. It's such a mess.
Of course, he was clinging to Kanye. So, I mean, guys, those of you groypers who are like, oh, he's so great. This is a loser who clings to anyone who's popular, even if they are completely opposed to him on everything else. If he can help himself gain some limited degree of popularity by clinging to someone who's more popular than him, he does it. I think that's I just think it's absolutely pathetic. But
I want to play you guys a pretty shocking clip that Fuentes here, Nazi Fuentes, says, so you guys can enjoy this one.
I want to take the chance to defend myself a little, because I know people are going to watch the speech and they're going to interpret it a certain way. They'll say, well, this is racist, this is anti-Semitic, this is Nazi this or that or the other. And I agree with Ye, by the way. We got to stop dissing the Nazis all the time. Let's just find another way to say it.
I did not see that coming.
You said Nazi.
Stop dissing the Nazis. No,
there is something even more damning, which is on the Just Pearly Things podcast where he was on, which was taken down by Pearl after she couldn't handle the heat. He was telling the story of what Kanye did when he went on Alex Jones' show, and he described what Kanye did as, he said something awesome. He said that everyone is special, that everyone did something special, especially, or everyone did something good, especially Hitler. And then he laughs about it. So to him, that is like the awesome thing to say, that especially Hitler did good things.
And if you remember, he's like, because Hitler, he invented the microphone, and Hitler, he invented highways. And it's like, no, he didn't. He probably got that from this. Probably got that from this moron. And and then Kanye later actually looks it up, unlike Knicks fans, and he's like, "Hey, this guy said a bunch of complete nonsense and embarrassed me in front of everybody."
I have to get rid of him now, like everybody else.
I still think this guy may actually be Dylan Mulvaney without the makeup on.
You got to point that could be the case. Either that, or he's probably paid by the Jews. I mean, to make the Gorpies look stupid, because there's just so many issues here. But
think about that, because that would kind of be fun, right? I'm gonna pretend to be this champion of all these morons just to show you how stupid they are.
Yeah, he's getting a house built somewhere in like Thailand where he can retire in 10 years and be forgotten. That kind of stuff.
You're tempted by the things that you like. So if you're not strengthened spiritually, if you're not a strong person, I cannot be associated with you anymore, because you are not strong enough to participate. The spirituality, the connection to Jesus has to come first. You have to get right with God before anything else. That's number one.
So I wanted to bring that up because this is, he's talking about, if you want to be part of his movement, you got to be spiritually strong. And as you said earlier, David, like, manipulators don't just say utterly false things. They'll say some good things. So he throws in a couple of things in here about being strong with God. But here's something that really stuck out to me. He's talking about you got to be like strong. You have to be like spiritually strong if you want to be part of this movement. Well, that's the opposite of what we see in the New Testament. Like 1 Corinthians 1:27. Okay, God chose the weak things of this world to put to shame those things that are strong. Psalm 41:1. Blessed are the ones who are considered weak or poor. The word there probably more means weak. So God uses the weak. So God chose Gideon, the weakest of his people in the book of Judges. God chose the disciples to shame the Pharisees. They weren't learned men. God chose David, the youngest of Jesse. He's all about strength, power. You got to be strong, powerful, be with me. He's saying the exact opposite things of what Jesus said. Jesus taught, I will take the weak and use them to do great things. He's like, no, I don't want any weak people around me, because his real God is not Jesus. His real God is power. And that's what he's always been about. Jesus is a convenient label he can throw on his real God, which is power. And that's always what he's doing in this. He's worshiping power, worshiping hate, these kinds of things. Nothing he says is Christian.
Yeah, when I'm watching this, it's funny because he's using the same tactics that lots of other people are using right now, especially groups that grow rapidly in popularity. But there's always some core thing that is supposedly defining their group, that if you join their group, then you're part of this, winning group. So just to give an example, like in Islam, the Dawa guys, I'm not saying Muslims in general, I'm saying the Dawa guys, the core attribute of their group is we're strong, right? So if you join us, if you're on our side and you accept everything we say and don't question it, then you're strong. If you question what we say or disagree with us, or you look into any of this, then you're weak. Do you want to be a weakling or do you want to be strong? Okay, then you have to agree with us. The new atheists, it was we're smart, everyone else is dumb. So if you want to be part of our group, then you're smart. If you're anyone else, then you're a complete moron and you're a religitard and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, with the woke crowd, it's more see, if you're with us, you're tolerant, and if you're opposed to us, then you're intolerant. If you disagree with anything we say, even though we go further and further, then you're intolerant, and you don't want to be intolerant because that would be evil. But each group is like taking this some virtue or something like that, and then focusing on it and telling people, hey, if you join us, then you're like this. But I'm seeing it, and he's using some of the same thing. You want to be strong, right? Because he's appealing. That generally appeals to the younger crowd. You join us, and you're strong. And he's adding the Christian dimension to it. And I don't know. It's just I don't think this guy is going to go very far. But if he's focused on winning a loyal group of complete morons who won't question anything he says and are not bothered at all when he lies to them, he will get some limited degree of success. But I'm just pointing this out because that's what's going on around the world right now. Everything is join our group and you can be like this. And that's it's not here's the argument and here's the evidence and therefore you adopt this position. It's if you want to join our group and be the smart group or the strong group or whatever, then you have to accept this stuff. And
the irony is it constantly promoting Christianity. He will lead people away from his ideas. Like there's a study called Unchurched Christian Nationalism in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, which showed that Christian nationalism arises among the least churched individuals. Another paper, Christian Nationalism and the Views of Immigrants in the United States, noted that, again, the least religious promote anti-immigration policies. The more religious people are, Christian religiosity, that is, the more likely they are to be pro-immigration. Kenneth Vaughn, who's a friend of mine, also published a study. The study is Religious Moral Communities and Secular Tolerance. He noted that basically religious service attendance is associated with more generous policy preference, particularly for Protestants, Catholic, Eastern Orthodox Christians, and Muslims. He also says national percent Protestant, regional percent Protestant, and regional percent Catholic are associated with respondents offering more generous policy preference at the national and regional levels. Percent unaffiliated is associated with more restrictive preferences. So ironically, the more he promotes Catholicism, the more people are going to be open to other races, more immigration, less nationalistic ideas. And I covered all this in my video. Does Christianity cause Christian nationalism? So he's sowing this destruction of his own movement, because the more he promotes this stuff, the research shows people will lead away from his ideas. This is why he won't really grow to become anything special, because his own core tenets contradict each other, and he doesn't even realize it.
Yeah, no, this is just doomed to failure. And keep in mind, I'm not saying that. I mean, I believe things are going to break up into groups, and there's going to be all sorts of conflicts and bloodbaths and so on in the near future. But the idea that this guy is going to be a contender is a pretty sad, pathetic joke.
You know
What do
what's
you wanna
also
say,
what
Pete?
you know what's very funny to me is he often talks about Jewish power, and people like him often do the very same thing. They talk about Jewish power. We have to get rid of the Jewish power. We have to eradicate the influence of the Jews and things like that. And then he goes and talks about the Talmud. I just find this very. I don't want to say dumb again, but I just don't. I
You
can't
can
find
say
another
dumb.
word for that.
You can say
You can
dumb.
say dumb. Say
Because
dumb.
when you ask them about what they mean with the power of Jews, they point at the media, certain media news outlets, and how they are predominantly owned or operated by Jews, which is somewhat true, and there is a quite normal explanation to that as well. And then the
Mhm.
entertainment industry, which is also quite often occupied by Jews, which is also very naturally explicable. In fact, it's one of the easiest things to explain about all of that. The issue is when you look at all of those. When you look at those Jews who are generally present in those industries, we are not talking about Jews who are very religious. We're not talking about
Yeah,
Jews who
he
follow
thinks these guys are all sitting there
Talmud.
with the Talmud, going, "Oh, I'm going with this rabbi. I'm going with what this rabbi says because I'm gonna go kill all these guys. And, I
In
can't,
fact,
I can't kill them right now. All I can do is take all their money. Ha 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 ha."
if you look at the average Jew who is in Hollywood, or the average Jew who is in, I don't know, the New York Times, these are just Jews by ethnicity, by or ethno-religious affiliation, but most of them are not practicing Jews. The average Jew there is not somebody who actually cares very much about I don't know, being as Jewish and following the law as much as possible. Many of them, I don't want to say most, because I want to be more sure about this. But the average Jew there is quite secular, and doesn't even know much about the Talmud. So why in the world would you go to the Talmud and then also talk about this Jewish power in existence? It just doesn't make sense. It's completely disconnected.
The actual reason why the Jewish population got so rich has more to do with the Catholic Church than anything else, because the Catholic Church outlawed usury in the Middle Ages. Yeah. Protestants started to allow it, like John Calvin was one of the first to start talking that this isn't really a sin. But so everyone needed to do banking, so they just went to the Jewish people, and the Jews got really rich from their banking system that they basically had to run because they filled a void that the Catholic Church outlawed. So they outlawed usury among Catholics, and so just because of the way things naturally flow, the Jewish people got really rich from banking. So if you want to blame anyone, Nick, blame the Catholic Church. Okay, quite honestly,
Jews were driven out. Jews were forbidden from many of the regular jobs that other people occupied. Jews were basically forced into specific circles. And picture this: just think about how Hollywood became so occupied by Jewish people. Do you think it was like Jewish people built this whole thing with the precise aim of saying, we will build this industry, we will establish Jewish power, this is only for us? No, it happened as a necessity. Jewish people go westward. Again, there is that word. Go to California, for example. In this case, since they are familiar with the history of Jews not being very welcomed in different sectors and different industries, they take advantage of something that is currently emerging, currently developing, and they think, hey, this is a job that we can do. They establish, small-sized businesses where they make films, where they propagate things, where they to engage in entertainment. And what happens is, okay, I'm Jewish, I have this cousin who is also Jewish, he's looking for a job, he can't feel safe working on all these other things, he is alone right now, I should probably hire him, and we can be together in this job. Jew hires Jew because of their history that others inflicted upon them, and there you have a Jewish industry. It didn't develop as a secret force, as a secret power, led by a secret deep state, or by a secret organization that specifically wanted to establish this to conquer the world. It happened as a very natural process, as a necessity, as a consequence of living in societies where being a Jewish was not necessarily welcomed.
Yeah, let me give you another example, AP.
Yeah.
I'm from West Virginia.
Yeah.
All these white guys run the coal mines.
Whoa.
They own the coal mines. They work in the coal mines. Everyone's white. And then, like, someone who works in the coal mine, his kid, gets a little older. And what does he do? He goes and works in the coal mine like dad. And so you got white people taking over the coal mines. It's all a race thing.
We have to go for the coal mines.
It's all a race thing, and not just, there's the job and these are the people in it. And
we have to save the coal mines from the stranglehold of the white people.
White man. If they control they control the energy, man. They control the energy. They control energy. They could take this place over, man.
Do you guys want to play a little bit more of this, or you guys want to close it out?
I want to play games.
Should probably go through your super chats.
Yeah, I got a lot.
Unless there's something awesome coming up.
He comes up and he says,
this seems absolutely pathetic to me. And his followers,
I want to say one thing.
His followers seem way dumber and way more pathetic than I could have even.
I want to conclude just with one thing on my behalf, on my part. When it comes to the Talmud, there's always fair criticism that you can offer.
Yes,
there's always fair criticism you can offer about everything. Like I, as somebody who is, who doesn't believe in that book, for example, who doesn't follow that book, who doesn't really, take authority from that book, I would say I find certain things in that objectionable, but not really very hostile. For example, when it describes, the Jewish people, it speaks of them as us, as more, as informed and righteous, whereas the others are in ignorance. And I would say, okay, you know what, that is objectionable, but that is something that you can find in pretty much every group, in pretty much every book, in pretty much every religion. That is what is being claimed, and there is probably nothing wrong about it if you think about it from the perspective of that very specific religion. If you want to offer criticism, you can find things to criticize if you really want to go after it. But as we have seen here, and as we have demonstrated, Nick Fuentes and people like him, they don't offer fair criticism. They simply make up things. They distort things. They lie to their own people in order to strengthen their own agenda by basically exploiting the feelings of other dumb people who like to follow something without understanding anything about the world. That is not solid.
Yeah, and if you, as you pointed out, of course there are legitimate criticisms you can point, but if you're going to point them out, do so accurately. This rabbi said this thing that is messed up, and if anyone follows that guy and ignores the other understandings, then you're messed up too for following that awful thing that guy said. But that has nothing to do with the way Nick Fuentes is presenting this stuff. He's just, nope, these are the list of things that Jews in general believe. But yeah, as AP pointed out, you could do this all over the place, right? So notice, if when we talk about Islam, we don't say, hey, some random sheikh at some point in history, centuries after this happened, we don't point to what some random sheikh says if it's not like the actual position of Islam. We could always say, hey, this guy said this, which is messed up. But it doesn't cross our minds to say this applies to all Muslims, or all Muslims are in on this, or something like that, unless it's actually something seriously to do with Islam. And even then we don't do it. Like if it's killing apostates or violently subjugating the world, we point out, hey guys, not all Muslims believe this. This is what Muhammad said, but this is what Muhammad said. But notice, if you're going to take that route and just say, this guy said this, if you actually had a record of Christian debates over the centuries, if you had a record of 2,000 years of Christian debates about various things, and you just had it all there, you had every Christian scholar, pastor, whatever, and you had his views put down in book form, do you think you'd be able to find some really, really, really messed up stuff about Jews? You'd find some really messed up stuff from Christians about Jews. Would you find some really, really messed up stuff by Christians, from Christians, about Muslims, about Hindus, about atheists? Yes, you would find some really, really, really messed up stuff. But if you somehow were able to collect all, everything every Christian philosopher or theologian or something like that ever said on all these issues, and you just zeroed in and you said, look what this guy said. Look what this guy said. Look what this pastor and this, look what he said. That's really messed up. And then you say, so that's the view of Christians. How would I not regard you as like completely evil and deceptive? And how would I not regard your followers as complete gullible morons who are just desperate to cling to something? I would have no choice. That's what Nick Fuentes is doing. Here's a collection of all these rabbinic debates that went on for centuries. And what's funny is I can't even accuse him of actually going to it and cherry picking. This guy's not even at the level of reading it and cherry picking. He's at the level of, I copied it off Twitter or I got this from Reddit or something like that. Here's the list. And his followers are just too dumb and brainwashed to even notice.
I would also say that Nick sort of ends this whole thing by calling for like a holy war, saying that, because we're willing to die, we'll make them die in a holy war, which is anti-Christian across the board. Remember when Jesus was about to be arrested and Peter pulled out a sword to cut the guy's ears off, and Jesus goes, "What are you doing? I have legions of angels I could call down if I needed them. Those who live by the sword will die by the sword, Peter." And then he heals the guy's ear. Look, Jesus doesn't need brown shirts. He doesn't need Nick's groypers to go around and enforce his rules. Jesus gave us the Great Commission. He said in Matthew 10, if you present the gospel and they reject it, dust off your feet and move on to the next town. I'll deal with them on Judgment Day. It's not your job to go around and enforce my laws through force. It's your job to go out and present the gospel and give it to anyone who will accept it, whether they like it or not. So Nick has sort of like taken the gospel and distorted it and ruined it and is using it for him to gain power. Jesus doesn't need Nick or his corpers to go around and be his brown shirts and enforce his rules for him. He said he's got legions of angels who could do that if he wanted. And yes, Christ is king, but they don't understand what that means. Christ is king in the sense that, yes, he is king of this world. He will enforce his rules through his actual angelic armies however he wants. But he's not doing that because that's not his policy, you guys. You don't understand what Jesus actually wants as king. He doesn't want you to enforce his rules through government. That doesn't work. He wants you to make disciples. That's why he gave the Great Commission, not the great government policy plan. He gave the Great Commission. So go out and be missionaries, make disciples, this kinds of thing. But Nick wants us to hijack the government so we can force bans on contraception, that we can force anti-LGBTQ stuff. We can force people to pray in schools. None of that will make Christians. That will just make people mad at Christianity. It'll be like repeating prohibition. It didn't get rid of alcoholism or obsessive drinking. It just made people more angry. So he would actually create his own monster. And this is why when I say Jesus is king, I actually mean it, because I'm actually doing what he commanded us to do, which is the Great Commission. Groypers, Nick Fuentes, are not. They may like Jesus, but they don't respect him. They don't love him. They want to use him to gain power. If they actually loved and respected Jesus, if Fuentes actually did love Jesus, he would stop this charade and become a missionary, because that's what you're commanded to do. Go out and present the gospel. If they reject it, move on to the next town. He wants to hijack the government to force his way of life to make life easier for him. He is an antichrist.
And a pretty lame, pathetic one. I mean, think about the big picture here. It's what'd you say he said at the end? Because I did see that clip on Twitter at some point.
He said,
"Hey, if they want to kill us, we're gonna kill them." Something like that. Yeah. And notice
we will make them die.
Notice you've got all these Jews in Hollywood and stuff, and they're about to go on a killing spree, right? Really, you've got like 18 million Jews on the entire planet. They're about to go on a killing spree and kill us all. That's why we got to kill them. I mean, the level of stupid you have to be. And why do you think they want to kill you? Because these passages in this Talmud that I obviously didn't read and I copied off the internet. Okay, so you're gonna rile up 500 morons to go out on a killing spree for you based on your own sad and pathetic research. And now this guy's a joke. He's obviously dying for attention, but he's one of these guys like Andrew Tate, like Milo, and so on, who they want attention really, really bad, but the more attention they get, the easier and quicker it's going to be to expose them, right? Because they've been saying all these idiotic things for all these years. Like Andrew Tate running his mouth. I did this, I did that, I did this. Yeah, no, I beat this girl. That's what I do. and he's saying all these things. And then by the time he gets the attention, oh, I need to clean up my act. Everyone's looking at me right now. Too late. Too late. You already said all those things. But that's how it is with Nick, right? It's like the more attention he gets, the more people will focus on him and go through his claims and so on, and show how idiotic and false they are, and show how the guy doesn't even know how to do the most basic level of research, and they'll expose him. And so he's in this awkward position of, he wants attention, he wants to be famous, but the more attention he gets, the more famous he becomes, the more it would instantly destroy him. And so it's in his best interest to keep his group of 500 groypers and stick with that, because that's all you're going to get. That's all he's going to be president. My goodness.
There's only one thing that I found good about his whole rally, which is he called out Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, and basically explained to his audience that they are degenerate guys who believe in turning their girlfriends into webcam girls. But here's the issue:
unlike Sneeko, my new hero. Because he's on my side.
Here is the issue. He didn't do that for any good purpose. He did it just because Andrew Tate supposedly indirectly said something bad about him. And he prefaces that. He says, he attacked me first, therefore.
Yeah.
So
he did say that. And that's the symptom of an attention-seeking narcissist, is because Andrew Tate's exactly like this too. It's I will judge you as a person based on whether you fawn all over me or not. It's not your positions. It's not your morality. It's none of that. It's if you side with me and praise me and heap praise on me and send me more of your fans, then I like you and I will have nothing but praise for you. And if you don't, then I'm just going to point out how evil you are. And I'm gonna act like it's because of all these evil things you do.
At 1 hour and 16 minutes into that, he starts praising Hunter Biden because he looks cool at smoking crack. So yeah, Nick doesn't really care what the Tates do. He thinks Hunter Biden is cool and looks nice. So it's like this ridiculous argument he has. He just is using people for whatever he possibly can there.
He's got a point though, because I just thought, like, you know, like if you're talking like Pookie from New Jack City, he didn't look cool when he's smoking crack. He's like, oh, right? But I mean, yeah, Hunter Biden, he smokes crack like a boss.
Hunter Biden is a G.
He's top G. He's the top G of crack smoking.
You guys, I got 81 super chats.
Oh,
so
you are loaded. What? Oh, I'll be right back. I just have to make sure someone is. I'm supposed to watch my kid at 10. I just need to make sure someone has stepped in. I'll be right back.
Why do you have so many super chats? What's happening?
Because we triggered the groypers and they went crazy.
And they started paying you.
They started paying me. Yes. So,
wow.
Here's one. Please invite Josh Moon of Mad at the Internet to discuss Nick's crimes. I don't know who that is, but I'll look into it. So apologize for that. Someone just sent in a $1 super chat. Appreciate that. Nick is the definition of rhetoric without substance, and his fanboys are utter loyal. Yeah, they're brown shirts. They don't.
I quickly want to point out. Sorry, I thought you were done.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I quickly want to point out, still to those who are saying, bring on Nick Fuentes. This is just a hit piece. Debate him, this and that. Nick Fuentes. I don't know why he's watching this, but hey, you can get in touch with me, and I will happily engage with you, happily host a discussion between you and me or somebody else, and so that you can also speak for yourself. So get in touch with me.
Yeah, I'll go on your channel with you. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm not having him on my channel right now, but yeah, I mean, like,
I get that.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm perfect. Again, the only reason I did this is because the groypers thought they could silence me on Twitter, and it just makes me want to go after their Fuhrer more. So that's kind of what happens here. They just want to shut up. I'd probably be doing something else tonight. But thanks for the 81 super chats. So let's see here. Young Christian men need their concerns addressed, but as First Peter says, with gentleness and respect. And yeah, that's absolutely right. There are young Christian men being disenfranchised by people on the far left and people in power like Hollywood, and it's horrible. But we don't fight fire with fire. There are a lot of racists on the left. Like my wife tried to join a group on finances, and they teach you how to like manage finances because she wants to get into that kind of stuff. So we can start doing retirement stuff. They let everyone join except cis white men, which is ridiculous. Why would you discriminate just on that? So there's a lot of disenfranchised people But we don't fight fire with fire. We don't become racist to attack racism. We become Christians, and we love and we pray for our enemies, and we become better for them. Read Justin Martyr's first apology. He's worried the emperor is about to kill him, and he's saying we still love and will pray for the emperor because we're commanded to. We don't become like Nick Fuentes. We become better than them. Nick wants to turn you into them. Don't do that. Become a better person. Everything he says is leading you away from Christianity.
Excluding white cis males is based.
You can say that. You're Turkish. What is real? Look at the specimens, lads. Okay, this guy's a racist, so I don't know what he's talking about. Nick, Sims, or Tate fans, which are more embarrassing? What do you think, AP?
Wow, it's a very tough one. I haven't thought it through, but I would have to say Nick Sims in this case. It's very surprising. I'm surprising myself right now because I think very, very lowly of Tate fans, but I would have to go for the Nick Sims here.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there. They get triggered very easily, which is unfortunate. You'd think they'd be a little bit, you'd think they'd be a little bit more crafty at this. If they're really Christians, they would know that Jesus said we have to be as wise as serpents and gentle as doves, and they are neither of those things. David, I got a super chat for you. David kept on stealing my cool ideas while he was in Ohio for the conference. This donation will prove that I am the true David.
Powerful.
Powerful.
Hey, what was it? What was that comment right forward? Like, who's
more embarrassing?
It's a very tough one.
That's tough. I mean, at least with Andrew Tate, you get the oh, look at me, I'm a kickboxer, I'm so great. Oh, look at me, I'm the best. Whereas whereas Fuentes, he's kind of like a dork, right? Like like on some, I mean, the rape and the pimping and the constant lying aside, I at least understand someone going, "Oh, I want to be like Andrew Tate." I can't imagine. Oh, I want to follow Nick Fuentes. It's like, what?
I used to like Fuentes back then, but have disavowed him since early 2021. As a devout Catholic, I'm deeply sorry for all that I hurt and made suffer by even talking positively about this monster. God bless all three of you. Yeah, and this is what we want to see. I really appreciate your humility, Josh. I think this is the right path forward. This is the Christ-like attitude that we need to see more of. And I bet we'll see more Fuentes fans waking up to his anti-Christian attitude, his demonic ways he acts towards other people, how he insults. And like just today, I saw on Twitter of him attacking the judge over the Trump case because she's black and Jamaican. Like that matters at all. You can disagree with her on policy or decisions. What does her race and ethnicity have anything to do with that? But that's where Fuentes goes because he doesn't have Christ in him. Let's be honest.
It's the melanin.
It's the melanin.
I was trying to think of what he reminded me of with specifically the claim that he's going to be president. I just realized it reminded AP. You weren't around back then, but Mike, you remember with the LaRouche fan, the LaRouche for president fans who used to be outside of like post offices and stuff, and like every election, but they would hold up signs saying, bow to your next president. And it's like this LaRouche guy, and he had like one plan. It was going to build this train system that goes around the entire world through the ocean and everything like that. And like every 4 years, these guys would come out holding up their signs. This is all these young guys holding up signs, bow before your next president. It's like, what level of insane delusion? But that guy, he was massively more likely to be president than Nick Fuentes.
I laugh when they say Kanye will be the next president, and then these people genuinely say Nick Fuentes will be the next president. That's just insane.
I think it's more likely Kanye would be president.
I'd take Kanye in a heartbeat over Nick, and Kanye's nuts, right?
Uh-huh. IP doesn't exactly agree with me on topic, therefore he's a liberal soy boy. My logic is undeniable. Exactly.
Hey, I just realized like I was like, why would I like so you've got Kanye. Kanye is crazy, but I don't get the vibe that he's like deliberately lying to people and so on. Whereas with Nick, it's pretty clear. This guy's well, the Groypers, they get mad when anyone on the left just uses racist as like a
knee-jerk reaction. That's what the Groypers do with liberal. Anyone they don't like, you're a liberal.
That's why I don't mind doing it, right? That's why I don't mind just saying you're a bunch of racist morons and stuff like that. I wouldn't respond to other groups like that, but when you've got this, when your entire group is a bunch of losers that sound like they're named after a fish, and all they do is like troll everyone, say, "Oh, you're soy, oh, you're soy, oh, you're defending the Talmud by pointing out that it's not actually in the Talmud, lol, stupid soy boy nerds looking up
Only
stuff."
Jews look up sources.
Yeah, bunch of dorks. Hey, your audio's off, IP.
Oh, forgot to hit it. There we go. Nick Fuentes is subversive. He's in the same league as anarcho-communist socialists, subverting their language to win over people in institutions. Yes, he's manipulative. He's manipulating people that feel disenfranchised, that have been rejected by society because of their skin color. But he's doing the exact same thing. It's like people on the far left, these nuts, they call everyone a racist. Well, Nick Fuentes fans, they call everyone a liberal, everyone a soy boy. Everyone a Jew. They don't think. They just do what they're told because he's trying to turn you into mindless drones. So don't let him do that to you.
And that's how the group things works. It's you take someone who is worried about something in the world, and they're going to join a group that is going to be the antidote for that. And a manipulator is going to seize that. Oh, here's a bunch of people who are worried about this thing. I can form my group, and these people will all bow down to me because I'm the one who's going to save them from that thing that they're worried about. And they take the manipulation from there. And I can look at this guy and tell him he's not gonna last. He's like Tate. He's like a little shooting star, very briefly. It'll fizzle out. The problem is, after these guys fall, their stupid moronic fans are just going to latch on to the next guy who takes advantage of them. It's pathetic, guys. It's pathetic.
Well, I mean, it seems pretty beneficial. I've gotten so much super chats, and this is my biggest live stream ever. So
thanks Nick Fuentes. You made IP rich.
Plus add to that the check that we'll receive from the Jews.
Yeah, the Jews paying us too, so we're rich.
Just wanted to say, David's content has made me cackle with laughter over the past several years. I'm sorry you've had to watch so much of it.
Yeah. Get a life, Brian. No, just kidding.
I would like fascism defined and explain why it's inherently bad. So fascism, developed by Mussolini, is basically the idea the nation is above all. Basically, everyone of the specific national heritage is above all. Put the needs first over the individual. So it's a collective ideology as well. It's about putting the nation first, the collective people above the individual. It's a government-run system. So it's different than basic socialism because Mussolini started out as a socialist in that socialism looks more internationally, divides things up by class. Fascism divides up by ethnicity or people groups. So us Italians or us Germans, we are above all. We need to look out for our interests first above anyone else. And we will then, segregate. We'll make a hierarchy with either the Germans and the Italians on top. And then, like maybe the British next, that kind of thing. So that's generally how it's understood.
There's actually an interesting distinction between Mussolini's idea and Hitler's idea, where Mussolini thought that Hitler's obsession with race is stupid nonsense.
Yeah.
To him, it was about nationalism, not race.
Yeah, about putting the people, the nation first.
Yeah.
And so, Hitler's was far worse, I would say.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. You and David blocked me for responding to you, LOL, whoever this is.
No idea who that is, but I don't block people just for responding to me. I block people for wasting my time.
I block people for insulting.
I want people responding to me. That's good. That shows people are thinking about it and so on. But if I blocked you, I assure you were saying something that's horribly evil, and I don't want to see it. Or I felt like, okay, this is too dumb and total waste of time.
Just wanted to say win for IP, AP, and D Wood. I'll answer this one really quickly. No, I think you can't hold to multiple views with it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we got a lot of super chats and it's not the subject of it. But yeah, I need to try to update that again too because I want to add some more stuff to it. General Wood, I have 2 Arabic Qurans standing by waiting for you.
I always love Brigham Young. I always love Brigham Young.
I just got it.
You know what he's talking about here, IP?
I think kind of. What
2
is it?
Arabic Qurans there. Yeah, I issued a very polite warning to jihadis of the world because they keep trying to murder Hatun. And I said, yeah, if you are ever successful at that, it's not going to go the way you think. And we're going to have a global campaign of Quran desecrations and so on to teach you not to do that again. And anyway, I've heard from all these people with pig farms saying, oh, I could help out there. But anyway, so guys, anyway, long story short, keep your hands off Hatun. We can all be friends again.
If Mike ever debated Nick, he'd probably humiliate him harder than he humiliated that Muslim guy who was trying to defend child marriage. I mean, yeah, I'm not against it. I'm just not sure I want to do it right now.
You're not against what? Child marriage?
Child marriage? Wow.
What the
Oh,
heck?
no,
You heard
no.
it here. You heard it here. Daniel
I would want to
Hakika's
see.
video tomorrow. IP agrees with me, you see? I'm making a difference.
I
mean,
changed
look,
this Christian's mind.
I'm not opposed to debating Nick. I would like to see the platform it's going to be hosted on if it's going to be worth my time. You know, with modern day debate.
It's called
sure.
Modern Day Debate.
I mean, yeah, you know, AP mentioned having a conversation with him as well. I'm perfectly fine exposing him since he has a lot of issues here and he's obviously filled with hate. It will depend if we can have an actual conversation. I'll admit I find him quite repulsive in a lot of the things he says, and it's quite damaging to Christianity. So it will depend if I think it's worth my time and if I think it'll be worth my audience's time. So I thought the debate with Hikichu was worth it because A, he had a big audience. I knew I could easily expose him on that topic, and it worked out exceptionally well when it came to that, for sure.
It would be funny. It would be funny if you debated Nick and whatever the topic is, he jumps up there and is like, "Oh, I just found out my opponent has a problem with child marriage, so I'm just going to focus on that."
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I do have a problem with child marriage, Nick. So you can't have a 16-year-old bride, which he said he wanted. Don't forget to unsubscribe right after, guys. Yeah, well, thanks for the money, all the groypers. I really appreciate you donating to my cause. So
Dumb groypers.
not sure what your plan here is. So was St. Louis an anti-Semite when he burned 2,000 Talmuds during the disputation of Paris?
St. Louis is a city. Come on, people.
The question is why did he burn them? And I don't see that as a good thing. Yeah, a lot of Christians in the past were anti-Semitic. That doesn't mean you don't just go back to the past and go, well, this Christian did this, therefore it's okay, right? No, that's not how this works. Why would we burn books? I'm always against burning books. People should always be reading stuff.
Yeah, AP.
Even if it's
I
bad.
hate burning books. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's bad, we should not forget the past. Like, let's not be like the Nazis that went around burning books because they wanted to control history.
Don't burn books.
This is
Horrible.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Horrible.
All of you would smoke him in a debate. Well, I mean, if based on his reading of the Talmud, yeah, he's not good at it. This kind of stuff.
I don't
so.
smoke people in debates, but yeah.
Hi, DW, AP, and IP. Thank you for all your work. I won't be in the chat when you read this, but I wanted to say hi. Well, hello. Nice.
Hello, hello,
Checking in.
cunt.
Sounds like you guys are the best Talmud defenders in town. You should debate Nick. Yeah.
IP has already agreed. So as long as the platform and everything works out, then
You know what?
Yeah.
Best Talmud defenders. You are a you are a better Talmud defender than a Talmud critic. In what? Let me rephrase this. You're better understanding the Talmud than Nick Fuentes is if you just go online and Google these sources about the Talmud and just do like half an hour of research, because Nick Fuentes has never done that, or he has done it and he lies about it, and his supporters who are here who just believe whatever he says have never done it. And we have demonstrated that earlier today.
yeah. And guys, I mean, I have zero allegiance to the Talmud and no interest in defending it if it says something horrible. All we're doing here is just pointing out that what you are saying the book says is not what it actually says. And some of the times you're saying that it says things that it doesn't say at all. They're not in there. They're made up. They're fabricated. They were made up by people who wanted to make Jews look really, really bad so you could stir up violence against them. And the other passages, I mean, let me put it this way. What did Nick Fuentes say about the Talmud that he actually represented accurately? I didn't catch anything. I didn't catch one thing. So this is more about truth and developing the habit of actually looking up what people are saying, especially if the goal of all the misrepresentation is to encourage violence against a group. That's sort of a paradigm case where you need to say, hey, let's actually look these things up and make sure these things are being quoted accurately. But again, I had no idea who Nick Fuentes was until the whole Kanye thing, and going through his quotations. Again, dude's either completely ignorant. If he's either completely ignorant, or he's a complete liar, or both. But under no circumstances is he a noble, truthful, careful individual at all.
He did say one thing about the Talmud that was accurate. He said it was written down. So,
I rest my case. This is like when our Muslim Dawa guys say that they're scientific miracles in the Quran. It's like, oh, well, it's right. There is a sun and there is a moon. Okay, so he got something right. Okay, there's the sun and the moon. All right.
Amazing how the only refutation Nick's defenders had in the chat amounted to either calling you guys heretics or saying you're wrong with no elaboration. You really stirred the pot with this one, LOL. Yeah, and this is like I said earlier. It's like Nick Fuentes fans are like those environmentalists that sit in the streets to block traffic. They're getting attention, but they're just going to piss everyone off. The Groypers are doing the exact same thing. They're not going to be successful. They're just going to make everyone mad at them and hate them. Like,
or AP, I'm sure you've gotten this millions of times when you make some argument against Muhammad or the Quran, and Muslims will fill the comment section with this is just making my iman stronger. And it's like, dude, I just made an argument. If you want to refute the argument and defend your prophet, you've got that space right there in the comment section. Instead, it's I was a Muslim before I saw this, and I'm still a Muslim. And then they'll all like the comment. But then notice there's no actual content, and that's what the Fuentes guys are reminding me of. No actual substance or content to the response. Just but we could call you names. Yeah,
fake laugh. You stuttered. Voice cracking.
Well, what's hilarious is that sort of method where you heap insults on people who disagree with you. That could be effective for certain people. Guys, we've been kind of buried in insults and mockery for a long time. A long time. So you're gonna need a new method if you want to crack these guys.
It's adorable. It's adorable.
It's pretty cute.
What is the context? Can you please explain? Probably to something.
No, what is context?
Oh, okay. I see. I misread that.
So explain what context is. That's where there are a couple of things you could be focusing on. So you can talk about the literary context, which means if you take a sentence and it's very easy to rip something out of context, meaning if you ignore what went before it and ignore what went after it, then it completely changes the meaning. So for example, it's very common for Dawa guys, but also Sam Harris did this, where Jesus in Luke 19:27 says, as for those enemies who didn't want me to rule over them, bring them here and slay them before me. And I've seen Muslims and atheists quote that to say, you see, this is Jesus commanding his followers to go on a killing spree and kill all the, when if you actually read it, it's a parable. He's telling a parable, and it's a ruler in a parable who's saying that, right? So notice this would be like me telling you a story, and I say, and then the ruler said, I got to go kill everyone. And you ignore all that and just quote me saying, I got to go kill everyone. You say, look, David's saying, go kill everyone, right? That's what it is to take something out of the literary context. And the other most relevant kind of context is historical context. Like what is actually being discussed in this historical context, because that can change the meaning. Or like if you're reading the Quran, you're reading a passage. If you don't know what that is supposed to respond to, or what question was raised by which group, you might not understand it. You might completely misunderstand it. So, yeah, that's what context is. And so, if you just go to the Talmud, and it's this ongoing debate between rabbis, and one rabbi saying this, one rabbi saying that, and you just take a quote from some rabbi in a debate, and you say, you see, that's the position of Jews everywhere if they're not atheists. That's that is massacring the context.
If either of you need to take off at any point, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to go through a couple. I won't know if I'll have time to go through all of these because I eventually got to put my daughter to bed. But
especially when they're still coming in.
Jews literally tried to ban the gospel in Israel. Okay, that's wrong. We condemn that. Okay,
I've been to Israel. There were Christians standing on street corners with handing out tracts and preaching the gospel open air.
Yeah. So didn't happen. So whatever.
And notice if all Jews wanted to ban the gospel in Israel, they'd probably be pretty successful at that. So what do you mean? What do you mean? You mean some Jews tried to do something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
What
Some
is
Christians have tried to do things. Some Muslims have tried to do things. Great.
what is the context? What is the truth to that?
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
even know. I know
Gospel.
I've been there, and I've seen Christians standing on the corners, like handing out gospel tracts and stuff like that, right there in Jerusalem. Matter of fact, right outside the Temple Mount and so on.
Oh, I see it now. In Israel, 2 members of the Knesset,
Two.
ultra-Orthodox
see?
members, wanted to introduce a bill to ban Christian or conversion to a different
This is why we
religion.
have to mass murder them.
But Netanyahu
Imagine
said
that.
he will not allow this and he will block it.
Uh-oh.
But interesting. Weird.
Because behind the scenes, he's saying, wait, we have to wait until we have to wait until our affiliates in Hollywood have carried out their bloodbath in the United States, and then we will end the gospel. Everything in its proper time, gentlemen.
Why are you defending Netanyahu?
You
You're
see?
Jewish.
How are you the
Reading.
leading defenders of Netanyahu?
Hey, I'm new to politics. What do you
Hey,
guys
look,
think
there
of
we go.
Netanyahu? You know,
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I mean, I don't know much about it. I stay out of politics.
I don't know much about him either.
I'm too busy doing the Great Commission, guys. I don't have time to be in politics like some of these people, like David or AP.
It's funny. I think pretty much in the Israeli context and perspective, he's like the Trump of Israel. Same circle. I would guess politically. That said, I mean he does. I mean, I would say from what I know about him, I would probably not align with him politically, but that's all I know.
Yeah, I've seen the guy speak a couple times. I've always thought he's a good speaker and making good points.
Charismatic.
Like when he would sit down with American leaders and stuff and say, hey, you guys keep telling us this is what you should do. This is what you should, this is what he goes, a country like the United States could have multiple problems and suffer multiple defeats in battle, and it would not destroy your nation. We are one battle. We just have to lose one battle and we're wiped out. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're in kind of a different situation. That's something where I can look at that and go, this guy's got a good point. You are in kind of a different situation than
This
other people.
is so funny. We are already getting accusations of dual loyalty to Israel instead of besides America in the chat.
Oh no.
This is so dumb.
I'm a big fan of IP, but I think some of the claims don't properly give the principle of charity, and David's attacks on Fuentes seem weak.
Yes. Nick Fuentes says the Talmud says something, and David pointed out that it's not actually in the Talmud. That's so weak. What are you talking about?
It's very hard to give.
From an academic perspective, fabricating sources would be like the worst thing you could say about somebody.
It's also very hard to put things in charity when he's literally saying really ridiculous things like that somehow Europeans are better and Europeans invented.
I have to say this is a case where, look, if you're calling for a bloodbath and white nationalism and getting everyone darker than a paper bag out of your country, screw charity. I'm done with you. You're a freaking loser, and so are your stupid fans. That's how it is. Don't like it. Cry me a river. Cry me a river, gripers.
I completely agree. The whole point is not that the verse directly says that, but it's being used in that manner. In larger Jewish communities, like the ones in Israel and NY, I agree. Yeah, there's no evidence of that. It's another lie from Fuentes that's unsubstantiated. So give us the evidence. Show us where this is.
You can make claims as much as you want. If you make claims, you're supposed to, provide some evidence of it so that we can actually have a proper discussion.
Yeah, he just said that in New York. I lived in New York for 13 years. Don't recall having any problems with Jews trying to kill me there.
What?
Yeah,
this is clear proof you lived in New York. This means the Jews are your masters. You're protecting them.
But they paid you to defend the Talmud against the truth.
Nick doesn't even believe in dinosaurs. He's lost. Really? That's crazy. What? That'd be crazy.
You see, the dinosaurs are made up by the Jews. Have you ever seen a dinosaur yourself? No. You see them in movies. Movies made by who? Jews. Jews. And who runs the museums? Jews. They're just making this up to distract you.
You
from,
can literally
their plot
go to
to brutally
sites.
murder all of you.
You can go to sites and observe it, but no, if you go there and observe it, then you are putting on Jewish goggles. It's all a conspiracy.
Oh, I mean, I really appreciate the money, but I don't get it. You're paying me to go after your Fuentes. Although Fuentes may be anti-Semitic, the claim of Jewish authority itself is not and is verifiable. There is a lot of anti-Christian bias in Hollywood. Well-known apologist Ray Comfort, former Jew, has even mentioned this. Look, I'm not saying there is no anti-Christian bias in Hollywood.
I'm not saying that either.
You can say that.
We're saying you're claiming things that are factually false and using those factually false claims to stir up a bunch of morons to try and get them to become violent. That's the point. It's not, oh, every Jew is great and every other person. No, it's not, of course.
I also think there's
really
anti-Christian bias in Hollywood. I also think there's anti-Christian bias in the music industry and a lot of things. I do believe that as well. I do think so as well. But
it ain't just from Jews. It's from a lot of white people.
Yes. Primarily,
there are lots of white people who are anti-Christian. What are we going to do?
I would say it is mainly from white people. I would say.
And again, the Christian response is to love and pray for them. It's not to launch a government campaign to like kick them out of the country or take away their wealth or anything like that, or go into nationalism. Like, again, Fuentes fans don't even understand the basics of what it is to be a Christian. If they think this is just to respond with all this hate. Like, that's not how you do this. What do Jews think of Christ and his followers, and how much influence does this group have on the U.S. culture and politics? Have Nick on, cowards.
Didn't you already agree that if the format and stuff is acceptable, you debate them? Well, I got to keep saying this. You have a range of perspectives. So you have Jews who are actually Christians. You have people who are ethnically Jews who are Christians. You can check out Michael Brown there. You have Jews who are diametrically opposed to Jesus, and you have claims in the Talmud that would not be liked by Christians. But there are tons of Jews who look at it as like kind of cool, right? Like, hey, a guy from us, a Jesus guy from us, and influence the world. Matter of fact, when I was in Israel, we're talking to a Jewish. I was talking to a Jewish guy, and we were talking about Jesus, and he said, Jesus way won, even here among Jews. He says Jesus way won. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, if you look at the criticisms that Jesus was presenting against the religious leaders and their hypocrisy, and so he won. That way won. He goes. There's no Jew who's if you injure yourself, Jew or Gentile, you get injured on the Sabbath, and they're not going to take you to hospital and make sure you get medical. There's no one's going to do that. It's not like that anymore. It's like that was a thing. Yeah, that was a thing 2,000 years ago. It's not there now. So. Yeah, I don't know. He seemed to be totally cool. Like, yes, Jesus. So he doesn't believe in Jesus. He doesn't believe that Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead and died for his sins and things like that. But there are Jews who believe it. Hey, he had legitimate criticisms of hypocrisy and so on, and he was right on those things. Yeah. So anyway, point is, you have a ton of different views.
What's crazy is people think this dude is on the side of Christians. Nick is just playing to the crowd for his political gain. Like any good grifter, he would just as quickly advocate our deaths if it serves it. Absolutely correct. There's nothing. He's so full. He is always attacking people for their race. Very derogatory comments. Very misogynistic comments about women's looks.
We are entering the golden age of the grifter right now. Just so everyone knows, we are entering the golden age. There's never been a time in history where you will be able to be as successful as a grifter as right now and in the near future.
I am more on the side of Christians than Nick Fuentes is.
You see,
praying for all these young men being led astray. Yeah. The Groyper coping as Chad is honestly embarrassed. It is. It just makes them look bad.
Pathetic.
And you think you guys are going to run the country one day? It's never going to happen. You guys can't even mature to the point where you can't act like normal adults in the chat. I need to make a meme. People. That meme of people saying, "Tate taught me to be a man. You effing cunt." I should make one. Nick led me to Christ. You effing, like that's the way they act. Like,
are you guys dumb, man? You groypers. Yeah. Nick Fuentes is going there and having the only relevant rally of white nationalists out there in our time, and it's a very embarrassingly ridiculous one. And what he talks on there when he goes on there with his very tiny pathetic ways is he talks about what the streamer Destiny and Destiny's wife and how she has a cute face but not a good
Yeah,
body.
so we got Destiny.
And then he talks about these other streamers, and is your guy, your hero.
This is the president.
Your high school Hitler who wants to become president talks about these streamers and their wives and these online dramas that nobody actually cares about in the real world.
Now, listen, guys, I was hanging out on the playground one day, and a little Jewish kid kicked sand in my face, and so now I'm getting my get back right now.
I just know all these Fuentes simps taking his out of context claims and lies would support Islam in a heartbeat as a brother of faith. And there's a lot of similarity on there, unfortunately, with like the traditional Muslims and the white nationalists. There's a lot of weird commonalities.
They do have common enemies that they want to slaughter.
Yeah, creepy. But again, Nick is always promoting Christianity and people to get involved in church. The studies show the more he does that, the more people are going to turn away from his movement. They'll lead to more pro-immigration policies, less Christian nationalism, more democracy, more education, all the things Nick hates. I mean, so,
Pathetic
guys.
weasel.
These are boys that society is absolutely crapping on. Remember that and try to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for trying to straighten them out. Yeah, I've said in the early, yes, they're disenfranchised, but they're playing into the far left's hand. They want you to be a bunch of racists. Mm-hmm. You're becoming a bunch of racists. Wake up and stop being stupid. I know you guys are smarter than this. I know you're smarter than this grift that you're falling for. So get over it and become actual men.
Yeah, and some people just need to be told that they're a bunch of pathetic losers until they change their minds.
See, I sympathize with that way of thinking. I sympathize with that whole thing of being, I don't know, being pushed to the corners of society, disenfranchised, and this and that. And they have their struggles. Shouldn't be so hard in criticizing them. But we are talking about people. And, I agree with that to a great extent. But we're talking about people who spent their time online, basically spreading some really, really messed up stuff about other groups that are, marginalized or oppressed. We're talking about people who spread ideas of deporting and entirely getting rid of people.
These are wannabe oppressors. Their goal in life is to get enough power to where they can go around subjugating and oppressing and killing everyone else. And as much as you could possibly sympathize with some of the psychological factors that lead these young guys to say, "Oh, I'm going to go support Nick Fuentes," we gave them the opportunity when we said, "Okay, here's what Nick Fuentes says is in the Talmud. Give us the source on that because it's made up." That was your opportunity right there to show that you have the slightest bit of integrity. And if his fans, in response to that, had gone, "Whoa, okay, yeah, I'm not going to believe what he says about this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I've researched it for myself," you'd have been cool with me. Okay, cool. You did not know. Now you know. Now you understand. You have to be more careful. Totally okay with you learning your lesson over time. When it's just when we point out, hey, he's not even making stuff up. He's just falling for other stuff that other people made up because he's too stupid, and that doesn't bother you even slightly. You just, you guys are soy boys for actually looking up sources. That's for reminds me of Andrew Tate saying books are for losers, right? Looking up sources is for losers and so on. It's like, okay, guys, you're morons and you have no desire to change. Nothing I can do but point out the obvious.
In this Talmud passage, is it in the room with us now, Nick?
There is one thing that people are pointing out, which is the friend and ally of Nick Fuentes, Ali Akbar or Ali Alexander, who is accused of and who actually admitted to having conducted some really messed up pedophilic, gay stuff. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong somewhere there. And Nick Fuentes defended that guy and actually. I don't want to misrepresent him even in this case, but I think
he's okay because he's not a Jew.
But he accused people who were exposing that guy, that criminal, and I think he was even threatening. I'm not even sure. I don't want to say anything wrong here, but he was even after the fact, after knowing everything, siding with that guy who was accused of and who partially admitted to having abused people in a gay way.
You guys are wrong. Fuentes led me to Catholicism, and I couldn't be more appreciative. His views are in line with the fathers and church councils.
Yeah, the fathers and the church councils, they said you have to make stuff up about people constantly to encourage everyone to go on a bloodbath killing spree.
I would say to Froggy, yeah, read the Bible more. Look, get more into the Bible, get more into church, start doing that more, and listen to more Catholics out there. Like, why don't Bishop Barron, for example, or Matt Fradd? I'm going to have a Catholic on my channel in September, John Bergsma. We're going to talk about some scholarship he has put out there on the Old Testament. So why don't you break out a little bit more and listen to other Catholics and see what they're saying? You know, why not?
No, I only listen to Nick Fuentes and what he says about the fathers and the church councils. I just listen to him. I don't listen to anybody else.
Fathers, you know, yeah, read the fathers. I was reading Athanasius today, his work on anti-Arianism and Trinitarianism and stuff. So
no, just Nick Fuentes.
Don't let this distract you from the fact that Destiny is a girl's name.
That's
a
good point. That's a good point.
His name is Steve. Yeah. Steven.
Thanks, IP, for doing this. You're very welcome. Let's see here. Nick gets caught lying. Groyper logic. Yeah, Nick went. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect summary.
Yeah, it's a cult-like mentality.
And by the way, that is a similarity in that IP. If you were to make something up, just completely make something up to score some points against someone, it would be Christians calling you out. If I were to make something up, Christians would be calling me out. But you've got these groups, and you got Andrew Tate. He can lie over and over and over again. Does not matter. His fans do not care. Nick Fuentes, he can lie over and over and over. His fans do not care. Daniel Hakikachu, he can make stuff up. Oh, the Catholic Encyclopedia says that Mary was 12 years old and Joseph was 90. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You can make stuff up. And what's amazing in all these cases is you can put it right in the face of their followers. Here's what your guy, your champion, your hero said. Here is indisputable 100% proof that he was lying. How do you respond? You're weak. You're weak. You soy boy. You're nothing. You're nothing to him. Ha ha. And it's just it's amazing where this is the world we're entering. As long as you click up with a group, the leader of your little group can do no wrong, even if he is the biggest liar on the planet.
Wait, Jay Dyer had a debate with Nick Fuentes? That's funny.
Yeah. With regard to a female Gentile child who is 3 years old and 1 day old, she is fit to engage in intercourse at that age. Context. No, it doesn't. It's talking about ritual purity in that passage. It's saying that they could impart ritual purity, and it's because there is a tradition that Rebecca was 3 in the Talmud. However, other aspects of the Talmud say she was 14. So again, it's the opinion of one rabbi. And they're saying in that day and age, she could have imparted impurity. It's not actually encouraging that. If you actually read the context, that's not what it says. So again, same thing.
Context. What are you saying, loser? Only losers go to context.
Only Jews look at context. Isn't there a I don't exactly remember, but doesn't the Talmud prescribe when boys become men and when girls become women, and how they are initiated and when they are ready to get married? I think there is a specific age given, right? And it's not there were some different perspectives on this and so on. The one that won was sort of minimum age 12. Oh yeah. Okay.
And even in the ancient culture in Palestine, for example, Jewish girls were not marrying until basically around 18. The late teens to early 20s in Palestine. In Babylon, it was younger. But in Palestine, around the time that Mary was born and lived, girls were not marrying until around 18, actually.
Yeah.
So it's kind
of when people see someone say Mary could have been 12 to 14, just based it on the dominant view of the time, like it would not even have been a possibility before she was 12. So she could have been, as far as the custom, she could have been as young as this. But IP actually does the count. What was the average age that people were actually getting married? And they were older.
I have to say one thing If you can
Go for it.
get back to that last super chat,
Yeah.
about
There you go.
Avoda Zara 37A. Now, I looked into this when it first came up, when I first encountered it. I looked into it recently as well, and there is actually, this is the only quote, I think, among all those given, that I consider kind of problematic, because I saw even current rabbis, comment on this and say that there are implications about this part or this phrase from the Talmud, which may have led to some disturbing opinions among certain Orthodox rabbis in history, and that this is commenting on on relations in that specific time, on people who become Jewish in their age of marriage and all of that. And I did see, I don't want to misrepresent anything or anybody here, but I did see that even some rabbis in our time have some difficulty interpreting and explaining this, and they do admit that this passage can be seen as problematic and can be used in a problematic context by rabbis themselves. So I saw rabbis themselves point that out. That said, it is not Jewish law that you can actually have sex with a 3-year-old girl.
Yeah, and no one is saying the Talmud is perfect. So it's nice to see someone that's not a bread tuber commie refuting Nick Fuentes. You should do Karl Marx next to complete the anti-authoritarian streak. I mean, I don't know. This just is this one-time thing. I'm going to get back to doing actual things I more enjoy doing, like videos on relevant topics that I like talking about. Workers are just Marcion heretics with the internet, I guess, kind of, but I don't think they reject the Old Testament because Nick is Catholic technically. So, David, AP and IP analyze all these wannabe Nazis and their possible responses.
What responses? What responses? Oh, soy boys, you're liberals. You're liberals. Only liberals look up sources.
You guys are missing the point of the topic, that Euros have a right to exist. Mass migration changes demographics in Euro country. Nick Shields P3DOs. Yeah, he does, and that's horrible. Yeah, we have a right to exist, but we also have a right, so do other groups. And there's nothing wrong with them coming to our countries if they're going to work hard and contribute and help the society grow.
Yeah, you guys are missing the point of all this stuff in the Talmud. It's just that Europeans have a right to exist. That was it. I think he said quite a bit more than that.
Yeah,
I agree. Europeans have a right to exist.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Oh, I guess we're all good with Nick Fuentes now because we say Europeans have a right to exist. Yay, yay! That's the point. That's the only point here, guys. Do Europeans have a right to exist? If so, support Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like notice what you just saw. It's the exact same thing as when you say, look, here are 37 things Andrew Tate just said that can instantly be exposed as lies from his own video clips from years ago. But he's just telling young people to be strong. That's the takeaway message. Notice it's the exact same thing. We'll zero in on some like completely general, but Tate is saying young men need to be strong. Nick Fuentes is just saying Europeans have a right to exist. Well, then shut up about everything else.
I think we're gonna close out here soon because we've been going for almost 3 hours, and I just don't have time to go through all these super chats. I apologize. There's just so much. I greatly appreciate it. I honestly do, but we've gone for so long, and this was not the point to go through super chats. But I'll do a couple more, and then we'll just close out here. So love the people calling IP a soy boy when he's more of a man than 90% of Nick's fan base. Yeah, I don't go on live chats when people are attacking me and just degrade and throw money at them. That doesn't make any sense at all. Ever read Fascist Philosophy's Actual Idealism? No, I've not. So, no, I've not read that.
Hey, we finally found something that Mike hasn't read.
Nick has some valid complaints, but he goes too far and has silly solutions. He's a child. Yes, absolutely. He's got valid complaints at times. But his solutions are wacko.
Your voice is cracking. How can you criticize Nick Fuentes?
Yes.
The content is a blessing. Any updates on the efforts to get you involved in Timcast IRL? I'm just waiting for them to contact me. I know people want me on there. I just haven't heard anything. So, yeah, sorry, don't know. Thank you for the super chat. I got a $50 one down here. I just wanted to show. Don't have any questions or anything. The super chat is just an expression of approval for tackling this issue. Yeah, and I'm glad to do it. I thank these guys for coming on. I'm just going to stop it there because there's so many. I don't know what to say. I really appreciate all the super chats, but there's just so much to go through.
I was looking for something on Twitter, in my Twitter history, because I had a discussion about Nick Fuentes a while ago. And then I just noticed somebody posted a link to Nick Fuentes defending that other guy who is gay and who has been accused of sexual abuse and harassment. And I just read this funny thing. I don't even know if I should share it, but the review of Nick Fuentes, and it says, instead of America first, it says anal first. So that's just,
well, thank you, AP, for completely ruining this Christian live stream.
But it is by Christians, to be fair. So it was not my thing. It was a Christian. It was him. I'm just repeating what I read here. Anyway.
IP, I don't like how you use the term conspiracy theory. I recommend you research conspiracy theory and philosophy of conspiracy theory. Peter Dale Scott, David Ray Griffith, so. Thank you. If you read this, love your stuff. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I do really appreciate the super chat. I understand that you don't agree with Fuentes on everything, but I'm still going to call him out. And if he's pushing things, the way I define conspiracy theory is it's a theory about the secret actions that are basically going on behind the scenes for which we don't have sufficient evidence for. And, you could talk about, for example, like Watergate. That was a conspiracy theory that came true. That kind of stuff. There are times when it does come true. But so, yeah, I'll look that up. I appreciate it.
The point, you have to be very careful about conspiracy theories because one, they can spread very rapidly, because when you're telling someone, hey, here's this conspiracy I know about, no, the regular people don't know about, but I know about this conspiracy, that gives people this sense like they're in this special group that knows about the conspiracy. And so it's dangerous in that sense that it can spread rapidly, and in the sense that since it's a conspiracy, it's very difficult to show that it's false, right? It's like if I walk up to you and I say, hey, you're conspiring against me, what can you possibly say? If you say, no, I'm not, well, that's exactly what I would expect you to say if you're conspiring against me. And so it's they're hard to prove false, and they're easy to get to spread, and so that's why you got to be careful with them. And
so you're saying dinosaurs didn't exist?
You see, it's a conspiracy. It's Jewish conspiracy.
David, do you have any events coming up?
Next month, the Our Strong Tower Conference in California. So yeah, you can come meet me and shake my hand, or if you're a jihadi, you can come blow my brains out.
Or if you are a groiper. I don't know what they do. No idea.
Or if you're a groiper, you could show up and whine like a little baby. You call him, look at the liberal. Look at liberal. It's a liberal. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. I will be in Salado, Texas for the Unapologetic Conference hosted by Texas Baptist. And then I'll just be walking around ETS conference in November in San Antonio, I believe, because I have a lot of scholars I got to talk to. But yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. I'm going to close this out because, again, way too many super chats to go through. I do appreciate them all, though. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I linked my guest channels below. Be sure to subscribe to them, and we'll see you guys next time.
Wait, Nick Fuentes still didn't contact me, so I'm still waiting.
All right. Well, Nick, he's waiting for you to contact him.
Nick is scared. So. He's scared. He's running from AP. You see, groipers, you followed the wrong one.
Yeah,
pathetic.